No, I don't think so.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to episode 2 of Chilling with Ace, the UWF's official unofficial podcast. And with me today, the winner of the 2018 UWF King of the Ring, Mr. Chris Dresden. That's right, we're going old school. I remember. You got rid of it, but it's not going forever. Dresden, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. Yeah, the username's just getting progressively shorter. I lost the first name, and then, I guess I'm going to lose the second syllable. Then I'm just going to go down to a symbol. Then I don't know.
You're gonna go from Dresden to just Drez, and then eventually it'll just be just a shrug maybe.
Yeah,
How are
but
you
yeah,
feeling? Like this is what a little over a week since King of the Ring was posted.
yeah, a little over a week. When you asked me how I was feeling, I kind of think in real life. Sorry, because that I'm tired. This was like my 15th work day in a row, and
Oof!
yeah,
Oh no! Oh
yeah.
no!
Uh, but King of the Ring, though, it's been a week, and it's kind of hard to believe that though, because I don't think I've entirely processed it or really digested what happened yet. Uh, Even though, uh, it's been a week and there's been a revolution and I've had a title defense and all that stuff, but it's still pretty crazy that what happened. Yeah.
I mean, it's always gonna be surreal. Especially when you look at like previous Kings of the Rings in the past, where a lot of times you have like more established superstars. I think the last King of the Ring was Sabazon winning with William Regal. He wasn't really super established, but it was still like an established like wrestler that you know. And usually when you look back at like those brackets and stuff, it's usually characters that are pretty solidified either outside of here that people were able to just successfully bring over, or just people themselves who had established who their character was at that point. UWF in its current like reboot phase still sort of up in the air with some people. So how do you feel like do you feel like a year from now, like if King of the Ring had waited a year to happen, do you still think that you could have won this whole thing? Say everyone kept their same characters, a year of development. Do you think that your Vinny a year from now can still win compared to say Foch's Sweeney a year from now, compared to like Gertz, Jimmy Jacobs a year from now, like the people that were in the King of the Ring?
I'm going to say a year from now, definitely not. And I say that mostly because I didn't think I was going to win this time.
uh,
My well, for one, my track record with the King of the Ring tournament isn't really that great. I can't remember if I was in it at all with Bray Wyatt, but I was in it with Roman Reigns, and something ended up happening, and I no showed, and I lost to Destructo's Batista in like the first round, I think, and uh, before that, I'm sure I was in another one, but usually like Austin and Sting and all that stuff usually had other things going on when King of the Ring and like Royal Rumble and stuff like that was going on. But yeah, my track record with King of the Ring's not really that great, so that's another reason that it's cool, and I can't believe that I actually won the whole thing. But I definitely had some tough, stiff competition uh, through the whole thing. I didn't think I was going to get past Rollins, to be honest. And then when I got Foch, I was like, well, here we go.
it's been
I'm
it's been nice.
gonna,
It's been a nice run. Yeah.
yeah.
Whenever you match up against Foch, it's always like one of those like pit in your stomach sort of feelings. Like, oh, I gotta bring it. I
Well,
mean, there's a lot of people that are like that for sure. Like you, I absolutely are one of those people for me. Like whenever I see you post, I'm like, well, this is gonna be a tough one if it ever comes up for me. So, I mean, it's always like a tough feeling whenever you feel like you're on like going head to head against someone like on your level, where it could be like 50-50. Like, do I have it this week? Do they have it this week? Is there anyone that you didn't face in the tournament that you would have liked to have faced in the tournament? Whether it's you feel like you could have beaten them, or you feel like it would have just been like an interesting dynamic, or even just TT session.
Uh, Not really, and that's not to discredit anybody at all, but no, I'll be honest. The dream match that I wanted, just because of the dynamic of playing off of each other, I wanted that king versus king match. I wanted to face Cran, and that's who I got. And it was uh, it was a great 4 matches to have, because it's just like, okay, when's the last time I faced Tap Out? It was several years ago. When's the last time I
Oh
faced Cran?
wow.
Several years ago. When's the last time I faced Foch? Several years ago. When's the last time I faced Destructo Disc? Several years ago. So no, I liked how everything played out, and it would have been cool to mix it up with you, but I think everybody else, if I'm remembering correctly, like everybody else in the tournament, I'd already gotten to mix it up with. I think for the most part, because let's see, Suzuki, we got into like when he first brought the stable in, got to mix it up with him. Cairns Hardy, I got to face him. Uh, who else was in the tournament? I'm sorry.
I know Marty Skrull was in the tournament. I think he was a first round elimination.
Okay, yeah.
Who did I face? Oh God, now this is where my faulty memories come into bite me. Oh, who did I face? I think I faced Wyatt. I faced Benito's Wyatt.
Okay.
Yeah. This is where I seem woefully unprepared. As always, as I always am, as is the gimmick.
Right. Well, it's like, I love everybody and I love their work and all that stuff, but yeah, my memory sometimes actually quite often fails me, so I can't think of who was in it beyond like who I named off and who I faced and everything.
Oh, Gert
like that.
was in it.
Oh, okay.
When did Gert get eliminated?
I don't.
Because I sort of like disappeared for like a week or a little over a week at like during the King of the Ring just because of work. So like I feel like I woke up from a coma. I was like, who is everybody? Where's going on?
Am I still the best? Check his pulse. I'm still the best.
God, you don't even know what it's like to write for Daniel Bryan. It is satisfying, and I never wanted to punch somebody in the face more than myself when I write for him. I'm like, all right, all those feelings that you don't have, let's force them. Oh, it is weird. but that sentiment is very much a part of it. It's just like, checks pulse, I am still the best. I want a picture of that now. I want someone on that. So where do you go from here? Like, obviously you're looking forward to SummerSlam, but with recent development on Revolution, you defend your television title every week. Is your focus on what's ahead at SummerSlam, or is your focus the week to week? Do you want to go in as television champion and walk out with 2 titles, or are you more focused on like the bigger opportunity?
I'm trying to juggle it. It's just kind of I'm trying to approach it the same way that I've approached it the whole time. It's just kind of I don't want to make it seem like I'm focusing on one thing more than the other. I'm kind of trying to take it all on, and that's why Vinny says stuff like that in the promos and in the trash talks. Because that's the truth. That's the way I try to look at it. It's just like, well, like when I was putting the champion of champions and stuff like that, it's like, well, that's awesome. It's cool to have that backing and to be granted the opportunity to become a double champion and stuff like that. But I don't want to. I feel like if I divert my focus away, that kind of takes away from the importance. That kind of takes away from the appreciation of getting the opportunity to challenge for that championship in the first place. Every opportunity I've had to defend it since then, and things like that. So I'm just I'm definitely taking it week to week, but looking at the big picture at the same time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense, especially with the title that you're holding, because for the longest period of UWF's history, the tertiary title, which the television title is, was always seen as like the newbie belt.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you stuck around for a couple of weeks and you were consistent and you promoted, it was just like you were eventually like tossed the shot at it. It was always like a proving ground. Like, all right, here's your opportunity. Are you gonna stick around? All right, if you win that opportunity, are you gonna? It was almost like a here's like a treat, and now let's see if you've learned some like good behavior from this. And it always felt weird where like you have someone show up for like a couple weeks and they show up like a house of fire, they get that title opportunity and win or lose and they just disappear like they were just in it for like that one little general rush, like, yeah, someone thinks I'm good, all right, bye. Do you think that your performance so far as Vinny is affecting the prestige or the way that the tertiary title is now going to be looked at, both on Revolution and on the as to be officially named second brand?
Me speaking personally, I don't like to say stuff like, well, yeah, I'm definitely changing the prestige and how people look at things and how people look at championships. Like, you'll never hear me say like, yeah, I've made that title mean something, and I've busted my butt and blah 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 blah. Just, you won't hear me say stuff like that. But I will answer.
But I want you to. I want to hear you say it.
I will answer your question with an affirmative based on what other people have had to say. Yes, everybody has had extraordinarily complimentary things to say about what I've done for that title to boast its meaning and everything like that. So yeah, I think it's helped the prestige a lot, and just based, like I said, based on what people have been saying, and because of what people have been saying, and because they see it that way, to tie into the last question, that's another reason I try to look at the big picture and kind of like cover everything at once instead of like focusing on, well, no, I want to develop I want to defend the television championship. Like, I could put the UWF championship opportunity on the back burner a little bit this week, or like vice versa. That's another reason that I don't want to do that, because it's just like, well, people appreciate the work, appreciate what I've done for the title and everything like that, and they say that it's boosted the prestige. So I want to continue to give 110% to keep it prestigious, to make it more prestigious, and just continue to make it something that people are hungry to take away or at least challenge for.
For sure. And the piggyback off of that, in the past, whenever somebody is holding a title and then they get what's seen as a larger opportunity, a lot of times they'll almost like snap of the finger, immediately lose that title. Think of Bobby Roode winning the Royal Rumble, jumping ship to Raw and losing the Intercontinental title, things like that. So to see that not happen, but still as a possibility, it's not like you're dropping the title. If you get beaten, you get beaten, but it's not like you're serving it up on a silver platter for the first person with a pulse to come and get it, which I think definitely, number one, helps the quality of trash talkers that we have in the Fed, because now it's like, yeah, you're getting some like newer guys getting shots at it, but they're not just getting an automatic win. They've got to work for it, and we saw that with the first successful defense this past week, and then who knows what we'll see with the second one. And then moving forward, do you, like, let's say you win this upcoming week, moving forward all the way to SummerSlam, do you want to face more newer guys, like some of those unproven people or people with somewhat newer characters, to give them a real challenge to try to find their footing, or do you want to face some of the more solidified, like, main event level people to sort of test your mettle heading up to SummerSlam? Like, which would you rather want as your path? Do you want the sort of new guy developmental path, or do you want the I need to test myself against the very best path?
You were talking about kind of how things used to be with like the tertiary title, and how, all the stuff that you were saying, that like when Bobby Roode won the Rumble and jumped brands and all that stuff, like when I first saw that this is like EC3 wants it defended at SummerSlam, and if Vinny's still the television championship, or still the television champion, excuse me, it's not going to get defended at SummerSlam because obviously he's going to be challenging for the UWF championship. So, I saw that and it's just like, well, I hope that's kayfabe. Because the way it's one of those things that I know full well how Danny operates. I know he's nothing. I know he doesn't do anything like the old guard, but there are still, call it war flashbacks, call it whatever you want to. You see stuff like that, and it's just like, oh no, not again, or something like that. Because the old guard.
Who's being handed it?
Yeah, who's being handed it, or something like they would kind of like mask things with kayfabe or whatever. Like that's their way of saying it without like outright saying it. Like, I don't want you to have the title anymore, Dresden. And like before, because the last time I was television champion, it was a Stone Cold, and that's back when we'd still do like the pay-per-view prediction threads. Kind of efed pick'ems.
Oh man, okay. I might have been. Was this when I was around?
Possibly. I don't know. Again, my fuzzy memory. You may have been, you may not have been. I don't know, but pretty much the general consensus was like, well, Dresden's been here for a while and he's a main event guy. I mean, it's his Stone Cold Steve Austin. He doesn't need that belt. So when I defended that belt the next time, guess who lost the belt? I did, because somebody got in their ear and was like, you know what, you're right, Dresden doesn't need that belt. And it's one of those things that's just like, okay, I guess I don't. I mean, I don't in a way. I've been doing this for a long time, and I'm not gonna suddenly like if I lose the television championship, or I lose to Brandon and I don't win the UWF championship or something like that, I love being champion, but if I lost an opportunity or failed to defend my belt or something like that, I'm not going to resign. I'm not going to just like quit trash talking because I don't get to be champion anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So in that respect, no, I don't need it to stick around. I don't need a championship to have fun, but at the same time, it's just like everybody loves being champion, and if you're champion, you want to be champion.
It's sort of like validation. It's almost like winning an award. Like, imagine you wrote and entered like some competition and you were judged like, second place in fiction writing. Like, that's essentially what the titles like equate to. It's just like, for this month you were you were silver medal. Like, that sounds harsh saying it like that, but like, you were second place out of like, how many guys do we have consistently showing up each week? Like,
right,
to be number 2 in a big group of people is nothing to sneeze at. And so like these titles sort of feel like validation. Like, yeah, my writing has merit. People read it and they get the emotions that I'm trying to evoke in them, and it's powerful enough that it's being like, quote unquote, ranked above someone else. So I can understand why people would like want or need titles. Like, when I lost to Andrew, his Punk at SummerSlam, because I don't remember if I exactly no-showed or if I just went like 1 round and he went 2 or something like that. I remember I sent him a message like congratulating him. I believe I did. And I got something very like condescending back. Not condescending towards me, just sort of condescending towards like the Fed as a whole. Like, yeah, I felt like I deserved this title like the whole while, and this was just like inevitable. I was like, oh, okay. That's not the message I was going for, but you do you, man. So like, you can sort of see that sort of like level of like pride that someone would take in winning a title. But I also feel like certain people, like you especially, you don't personally need it. Not to say that it's not deserved, but like, if, like you said, if you lose, you're not going to take your ball and go home. You're going to figure out a tweak to make and come back in and try to get back where you just were.
Yeah, it's one of those things that it's like you don't need it, but somebody coming out and saying, oh, they could lose that belt, they don't need that belt, is almost saying like, why do you like being champion? It's just it's kind of one of those, it's kind of a backhanded thing. But what you were just saying, you lost me when you said you went 1 and Andrew went 2. Andrew never went 2.
Well, this is around the time where like I was a little not feeling it anymore. So like I might have just completely no-showed that and just sent the message, but like this was Andrew's Punk. He had wanted the title for a while, so I think this is one of the few times where he might have been like trying to outperform.
Okay,
Because he had felt slighted a little bit.
Yeah,
because like this is the Punk that was chasing Ambrose for a while. This is the Punk that was like running up against the Khali wall.
Right.
Everyone was running up against the Khali wall.
Right.
And like I think it was like that era of like it wasn't like the Andrew that a lot of other like it was a different sort of like breed, I think. And maybe I just completely no-showed. I can't even remember. I probably did.
What if you don't remember? I definitely don't remember. But no, that was that was for people that don't know that. Yeah, Andrew was where the 1-1 bra joke comes from.
Yeah.
But so people don't think I completely glazed over your question though. What kind of contenders would I like to face for my title? I want to face everybody. Honestly, whether it's for the title or not, that's kind of what I'm here for. Is just I want to face everybody. Users I've faced before, and it's been a few years. Users I haven't faced yet, that are new. People that have picked up new characters and everything like that. Eventually I'd like to face everybody. The main one that jumps out to me right now that I would like to face, and I'd like to defend my title against him, actually. I think he'd give me a good run, and just the quality of the work that he's put out, not just the quantity but the quality, is Matt Chewy's Rick Rude. I look at his stuff and I was like, how has he not had a title shot yet, man? Like, he's good.
Oh yeah. And like Rude is an interesting pick. Like it evokes, oh god, who played them? It evokes the same style of like feeling from Blanchard and Anderson. Cause God, I forget who brought them in. Cause they brought in Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard with Bobby Heenan as their manager.
Yeah,
and it was like that like old school style of thinking, and like it meshed really well, and like they were awesome. Like I think they were called like the Brain Busters, which was great.
They were, and that was that's actually was another example of somebody that's just like white hot, just like white hot with their consistency, and then they get the straps, and then it's just like they're gone.
Yeah.
Like, what happened, man? Just I don't remember who that was, and I don't think it was like an established guy. I think
no, it wasn't. Like, it was someone new that just came in, and that's why like it sort of took us by surprise. Like, oh, you're new and you're gonna take old school guys? Okay, let's see how this goes. And it went way better than anyone could have ever expected. And so like when I saw like Rick Rude coming in, like I was a little like, ooh, Bischoff, I don't know. I feel like Rick Rude can stand on his own, but like the dynamic is there, the style of like trash talk is there. It's just like, okay, all right, this is taking old school and bringing it into the now.
Well, plus like Matt Chewy's another one that I've either haven't faced in a long time, or I was around for his last run, but we never faced off. It was either one of those two things. So there's that. The character is good. Also, the dynamic. Like Rick Rude is all about his personal appearance and everything like that. And Vinny's only about appearance with, as it comes to like the shock value, the grotesque, that's what he wants to witness. And
you get that massive clash in styles from how the Rick Rude style of wrestling was back then versus how wrestling has evolved over the years, with sort of like deathmatch styles starting to creep out a little more and more.
Yeah,
like it's starting to bleed out of the backyard feds, like the look at my trampoline wrestling fed where I have nails in a 2x4 and I'm hitting my friend with it. Like it's now starting to bleed out a little more than just like a little niche community.
Right, but no, I definitely want to face everybody though, and I'm excited about facing YOLO this week. As soon as I saw that, I was like, yes, I'm defending against YOLO. I was like, it's How I Met Your Mother time, baby. Because he's been saying for weeks, he's like, next time, he said, the next time I trash talk against Dresden, I'm going to use the How I Met Your Mother script. I'll do it. I'll fucking do it, man, because I'm just here to have fun. I'm going to do it. I promise, Dresden. So, yeah, when I saw it on the card, I was like, yes, yes. How I Met Your Mother time, baby. Suit up.
That's amazing. I love a lot of our newer guys. Like they're all just a joy. Like you can tell they're still loving it. They're not just enjoying it, they're just loving it.
And well, that's something I was thinking about today. Actually, when I had some downtime and I was thinking about the podcast later, I was just like, man, not only do we have just like this influx of new talent and stuff like that, but yeah, like you said, they're loving it. There's the camaraderie there. There's like the quality there, and you look at all that stuff. It's you can look at the young guys as well as like the vets. It's not just you could look at the vets.
Yeah, there's like a renewed love. There's a renewed love in a lot of the vets that are here.
Absolutely, and I'm I'm a perfect example of that. But it was there, like in a way. It's kind of like, well, okay, if you want to know how the new guard is different from the old guard, just ask the vets. And no, I do look at the other vets, yourself, Foch, Cran, Danny, people that have been around for a while.
God, I forget that I'm a vet sometimes.
Well, you brought it up on the first episode, so I had to slip it in there somewhere. But I look at these new guys too, and just how they're doing and how they're hanging with everybody. And that's another way I know that it's different from the old guard, because before it would have been like, look at all these newbies. They think their arms are long enough to box with God. Well, they haven't. They haven't met God yet.
Oh my God, that is a Damien Sandow trash talk if I've ever heard one. That is a Ray. That is a Ray trash talk right there.
Send in Carly.
Send in Demon Kane.
Yeah. Oh, look at this. Who is this? Who does Mr. Littles think he is? Awesome? I don't think so.
But is he perfect? And sending Cody Rhodes after him to write him off for a month.
Oh, Brandon Chase, you think you're pretty good, but my brother, Sneaky Potato.
Yeah, the battle of the Jerichos.
Yeah, let's see how he fares against Sneaky Potato. Yeah.
Oh, that would be a great Super Show idea. Is like the mirror match. Because I had asked that question in the Discord. I don't think I asked it on the site itself, but I asked it on the Discord. Is like, what trash talkers have played the same character, like at a similar, at least like a high enough level to like you can point to both of them, be like, well, you got this guy, you got Lidl's Miz and you got Foch's Miz, and it's like they're different and they're both fairly on the same level. So like a mirror match pay-per-view would be awesome, even if it's like just someone picking up the character for like a one-off.
Well, I would do it a little bit differently, because I do triple threat. Honestly, I do Foch's Miz versus Lidl's Miz versus Ozzy's Miz, because he did win the Royal Rumble with his Miz. So
okay, all right, yeah. Bringing some of that history I wasn't around for back.
Yeah, well, he was Big Green Apple at the time, and then he switched up to Ozymandias. Yeah, he won the Royal Rumble, and then for some reason no-showed the title match. I think it was against whoever's Batista was holding the title at the time. Might have been Destructos. That's the most recent Batista I remember.
I don't think it was him.
Was it Andrews?
I don't know. I think he won the Rumble before my time, because the Rumble winners I remember, unless it was like at the Rumble right as I joined, but that doesn't make sense because Foch was playing Miz and Morrison right as I joined. Because Rude won a Rumble, Ryback and Khali won a Rumble,
right?
And I don't think. Oh, and Ambrose won the Rumble right as I came in.
Mm-hmm. Huh.
Or
Like,
was it Brian? Or was it Brian who won? I don't know. I forget who won all the Rumbles.
Well, it was always like the same final five, kind of. It's just like, well, let's see. Ambrose is there, Brian is there, Sandow's there, and it's just like, well, we're not going to let Sandow win. You know, oh, is Brian going to win? Is Brian going to win? Brian might win. I don't know.
And here comes Ambrose with a chair.
Yeah. Nah, yeah, good times. But I don't know, because, well, my memory, and also obviously we can't go back and look and check dates, and also everybody else's memory. You know, people kind of like recall things differently. I've seen people like throw out months and years and everything like that. So I can't keep it all straight. I just know that it happened. So, you know, like my timeline is just very screwy. Like, okay, how long was UCW around? When did UWF start? When did this happen? How long was the C. Walker era? And then the Hoove and SBS era and EOR and all that stuff. So I know stuff happened. I just couldn't tell you like how long, what year, what month, what pay-per-view, you know, stuff like that.
And especially with how many characters you had.
Yeah.
And like the different periods of time that you played different ones. Like I'm sure it's all just like a blur. Like people have mentioned it before. At one point you were the world champion of all three brands at the same time with three different characters.
And the international championship, I wasn't even in that match. And
interesting.
It's
interesting that we have two people that can claim a similar situation.
Yeah, say what you will about the Kali wall and all that stuff, but yeah, you know, I became champion on Raw with all the politics. Like that was definitely the political brand, and I still won their title. So yeah. So
do we want to ask the real questions of which brand was more political, Raw or SmackDown?
Depends.
Or do we not want to open that can of worms?
Oh no, you're fine, man. You're fine. It depends. It depends because
because I remember Hoove telling me to tone down my Owen Hart when I first had him on SmackDown, and that's when I was like, ooh, I don't want to be here anymore.
Which is ridiculous because, you know, when the short time that I booked,
because he had Cody Rhodes running around on SmackDown. Like, come on.
Okay, it's just like, I don't need Cody Rhodes light. Like, if you look at the stuff, it's not Cody Rhodes light. But okay, that shows how small-minded you are, how short-sighted you're being about things. But okay,
I don't think he saw it as Cody Rhodes light. I think he just saw it as like Cody Rhodes dark.
Okay.
like Cody Rhodes was his line. He was like, "Oh no, you're crossing that line. Nuh-uh, go back." I was like, "I don't want to go back. I actually want to go further." But okay.
Yeah. So no, not on my show. You're mid card at best. Get out
at best.
It's like boys.
Go feud with Cran's Drew Galloway.
Yeah. It's like, well, I can't say anything about that. I had a good, I like that.
Oh, no, I was super glad that happened, but it just happened at a bad time for us.
Yeah, it was definitely bright spots on the sinking ship, I suppose, as the best way to put it. But
sometimes the band that was going down with the ship would play a song you liked.
Yeah, sometimes. But no, yeah, you trying to, you know, tell Hoove like, hey, this is where I want to be and this is where I want to go and all that stuff is kind of like and him shooing you back to the mid card or whatever. It's kind of like it's kind of like a boy that really likes a girl and she's just like, ew, back to the friend zone. What are you doing trying to escape the friend zone? Get back in there.
What are you doing? You think you're better than you are? No, I'm gonna knock you down 8 more pegs.
Yeah. Nobody told you I'm the greatest. And then it's Kali, and then it's Randy Orton and Triple H, and yeah.
Speaking of Randy Orton, for those who don't know, Randy Orton was Mike's authority figure of choice. Like him and Triple H, he would bounce back and forth between, I believe.
Well, let's see. It was Well, see, when you said that, I forgot because I remembered. Well, hey, it was Triple H and it was Stephanie. Yeah, you're right,
Stephanie
Randy.
Stephanie was Ash.
Yeah,
I think Stephanie came into more prominence after Ash.
yeah. No,
Like
you're
I
right.
feel like for a while it was all three of them. It was Triple H, Stephanie, and Randy,
Yeah,
and
because
it
I
was
think
basically whichever one Mike wanted to use at the time. Like
pretty much, yeah. Because well, no, that's all I was saying is I forgot Randy Orton was in the authority figure picture. Yeah, I think on screen, yeah, both of them were Mike, but Triple H was COO and Randy Orton was the POTUF, the president of the UWF.
Yeah.
So
I just remember one promo that Mike did as Randy Orton, and I was reading it. I was like, "What the hell is happening here?" It was it was Eva Marie and Randy Orton getting caught in a compromising position. I think by Triple H.
Oh yeah. I think
the lollipop promo.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh my god. I don't know why. Out of every authority promo that they throw at us every single week, that is the one that is stuck in my mind. The freaking Eva Marie lollipop promo. I don't remember why the promo happened. I don't know what it was setting up. Probably a Shawn Michaels match of some kind.
Yeah, probably.
But oh man, that one just stuck. I don't know why, and I wish it would go away because I don't want that mental image in my head anymore.
But no, as far as which one was like more political though, is with Mike it kind of varied, just kind of what mood he was in and what was going on outside of efeding and like who had been in his ear and stuff like that. So or if he would like take random sabbaticals and like, hey, who's booking Raw this week, and stuff like that. And then over on SmackDown,
it was like consistent, like how SmackDown was. Like
yeah,
Raw had peaks and valleys with the politics, but it felt like SmackDown was just like more consistent. Like, here's the line, better toe it or else.
Well, that's the weird thing. Like, Hoove liked my Stone Cold, but didn't like me. Does that make sense? And he never like
that. Does make sense.
Yeah, like but he's like.
Can I be honest real quick?
Yeah,
I'm the opposite. I really never liked your Stone Cold all that much. Mostly because, I'll just be completely honest. I like when people take an established character and add on to them when they give them their own voice. Your Stone Cold felt almost parallel to the real thing, which is not a problem for like everybody else. It's just like my own personal thing. It was like, yeah, your play, like I can see the real Stone Cold reading one of your promos line for line, and like that's just not what I'm looking for. And that's why it never really clicked with me. Like, I got it. Like, I understood why your Stone Cold was so damn good. It just didn't fully click for me like Sandel on Ray, or like the Batista with Destructo, when people take an established character and add their own little pieces on.
Well, yeah, I mean, no, that's a fair assessment, absolutely. And you're not the first person that has. It's not like I'm gonna, end the podcast or hang up or whatever. Like, what? I've never heard Stone Cold get critiqued before. It's no, and now you're definitely not the first one to critique it. And I appreciate that you want to be open and honest about it. But no, Hoove was never direct about his dislike for me though. But there were different things. For one, me and Chase would go on his podcast and we were very honest about what we thought about SmackDown that week and how things were going with booking decisions and stuff like that. So that was part of it. And also Anarchy was another part of it. That people liked Anarchy better than they liked SmackDown. He didn't like that.
That Anarchy was a little bit before my time, so I've only really heard stories about this end of things. So that's why I'm not like probing you more about questions on that end. Like,
right.
Anarchy was right before my time, I think.
I'm I'm gonna have to take your word for that. I don't know.
I came in when it was Thunder, when Thunder was the third brand.
Then yeah,
Thunder,
it was before your time. Then yeah, it was before your time.
Thunder was maybe just starting.
Yeah,
like maybe a few episodes in, but Thunder was the third brand at that point.
Yeah, then you missed it. Yeah, it was before your time because I think it was Anarchy. Then I think it went back to Intro Thunder back to NXT. I think.
Well, it was Thunder, then it was Nitro. Maybe I think your mic broke up, so you might have just said this, and I'm just repeating it because I'm dumb. It was Thunder, then Nitro, then NXT for sure.
Well, we did say the same thing, just in different orders. So yeah, I probably screwed it up. I said NXT, Nitro, Thunder, NXT again.
I don't think it went to NXT between Thunder and Nitro. Because I think Thunder went to Cran.
Yeah.
And then it went to Hoove. And I think Hoove turned it into Nitro.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, you're probably right.
Because Bischoff was the figurehead of Nitro, and Bischoff was Hoove.
Okay.
Because at that point, Bischoff was with Bryan. Because this is after Bryan had turned heel.
Right.
And needed a manager. If any of this is ringing a freaking bell, it should, because I basically plotted everything based on this.
Okay. No.
That's why I brought in Regal, because I was like, man, Bryan was, when I first joined UWF, Bryan was face. He was like the uber face that you remember now from the WrestleMania 30 build.
Right.
And then he started to turn heel, and then all of a sudden he brought in Bischoff, which has helped him become more heel. And so my parallel to that was like, well, who brought in Sabazon, who was Regal, so let me bring in Regal as the manager and just mesh all these ideas together.
Well, I don't remember the no, you just jogged my memory, because like the whole him bringing in Regal thing, like I knew I'd seen that before, but I was just like, well, okay. So yeah, that whole Sabazon run and all that stuff, like I remember now, but I forgot. No, yeah. The last time I remember Hoove having Bischoff is like that short time that he played 3-minute warning.
Yeah. Because 3-minute warning was brought in to be AJ Lee's little like pet project.
That's right. Okay, yeah, I got you a gift put in that whole Harley Quinn Joker stuff they had. Okay, yeah. All right.
Yeah,
see now. Okay, see that's
freaking Gert referenced in his latest trash talk against me, and I was gonna be bringing up AJ Lee, so that's why that's all fresh on my mind.
Okay. Well, see, yeah.
Okay, Mr. B.
I love it, but no, that's my Eva Marie promo. Like, no, go away, because yeah, those were I don't know, dude. That stuff was just kind of cringy to
remember.
Yeah, just if I never see or hear the word pudding ever again, like, that would be awesome.
No, that was definitely that felt like, and it's weird because the accolades don't match it at all, but that felt like who phoning it in if it ever was. It was like, I like Harley Quinn. Let's just be Harley Quinn. Like, okay.
It's like, hey, Mike's not going to let anything bad happen to me, so hey, whatever.
Yeah. I'm running 2 shows. Who cares?
Yeah, who cares, Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, you're right. I guess he was running both at the same time. So it's just like, I don't know if I should put this in this promo. I should ask my boss, hey, Hoove, what do you think about this promo? I think that's the best thing I've ever seen, Hoove. You should put it in there. In fact, you should put that promo in there twice on both shows.
Both shows, no reason. Bischoff shows up on both shows. Yeah. That's certainly a time. So speaking of the past, we're gonna go into a little bit of fantasy booking. Now, last time I had Cran on, I asked him if there was gonna be a fantasy second brand, who would his champions be?
Sure.
Now, all of a sudden, that's now a reality.
Yeah,
So if his champions end up being the exact same thing, you got those hot scoops from over here. But
yeah.
I'm going in a different direction with you.
Okay, sure.
Cran doesn't really have as many characters with pedigree. You have a boatload of characters with pedigree. So I'm going to ask you two questions, and the first question is this:
Okay.
with your Vinny now,
Yeah.
who from the previous UWF
You keep
would
dodging
you want
that last name. You keep dodging that last name.
for good reason?
Okay. Continue with your question.
Marseglia.
Yes.
Right?
Actually,
Awesome.
yes. Yes, Marseglia.
Marseglia.
Or
Yes.
Marseglia. I think that's the only way to
Marseglia.
say it. Well, they were doing like an interview with him.
Marseglia, maybe.
There you go. But he said, he says that people screw it up all the time. He's just like, okay, one of those two pronunciations, whatever, it's fine. Yeah, it's cool. But
in the ballpark.
Yeah, sorry, not to stomp all over your question though.
So with your Marseglia now,
yep,
from the previous UWF, from before the reboot, if you could face anybody who has not already shown up in the reboot, who would it be? So like, Focius Steen is off the table because he's been around. The only person who I will count from before the reboot is any of Danny's characters, because they're only in authority figure roles now.
Aha. Okay.
So EC3 is on the table.
Oh, now do you mean users that haven't made the jump, or do you just mean characters?
Any character that never made the jump. If you want to do one of each, where you're facing somebody that made the jump with an older character, and you want to also throw somebody who didn't make the jump as well, go for it. I won't tell you how to answer the question. I'm just going to give you the question to answer.
Okay. Anybody from before the reboot that I could face? Well, I'm going to get the petty one out of the way, and I'm going to say KotR.
Okay, all right.
I would love to chop down that 7-foot tree with the axe.
Oh, go right for those knees.
Yeah, absolutely.
Delicious.
Absolutely.
Now, let me add on to that question, to that answer, I mean. Do you want to face KotR in that era of UWF? Or do you want to face Ash's KotR in the current era of UWF on a fair judgment ground? Or do you want the handicap?
I definitely don't want the handicap, because
you don't want to see if you really got it that night?
No, because this is one of the few times that you'll hear me say I should have won.
I love it.
So no, I had it and I still lost. So no, I definitely don't want the handicap. I would want it in a fair shake in this reboot, in this run, this incarnation, whatever you want to call it. Because then, if I lost, then it's just like, well, okay, it was straight down the middle. It was called fair, then I would know whatever outcome it was. I wouldn't have to be salty about it, because it's just like, I know.
Now you know. Now you actually know.
Yeah. It was because I know that it was judged by unbiased, fair eyes.
Yeah. That makes sense.
But no, I was just throwing that out there for fun though.
I know. That's still a really good answer though. I love it.
But
because to be fair, not to cut you off, but to be fair, Ash was a top tier trash talker. I mean, if you won a couple rounds against her, it would start to become that broken record sort of deal.
Right.
But if you went 2-2 against her, boy oh boy, did you have to be on your A game.
Well, that's fair. I can't discredit the talent, but at the same time, you never know. Like, when was it her writing it? When was it him writing it? Who judged the outcomes and who made that decision? So, like, was that the actual outcome? Did she actually win? Like, so just it's one of those bits of history that comes with an asterisk next to
Oh
it.
yeah,
Unfortunately, or
for
an
sure. Yeah,
or an asterisk, if you will.
I will agree with the unfortunately part of that.
Yes.
Because it would have been interesting to see her run under like a fair light. Because I still feel like she could have won the Royal Rumble on her own merits.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and not co-win it.
Yeah, not co-win it. Yeah, people were. I do remember that. People were pretty salty about that.
Oh yeah.
But as far as characters from before the reboot, my memory is especially fuzzy on that one because towards the end, before the reboot, like before I even retired, though, I was just kind of burnt out and kind of going through the motions and just stuff like that. And so I don't remember a whole lot of people that were in there, but maybe it might have been interesting to like the Roman Reigns Eddie Guerrero run that I had on Thunder. It might be fun to see how Vinny would have done if I did that run with him instead of Eddie and Reigns.
Ooh, I like this. Oh, your Eddie wasn't like the Eddie people know. It felt like, yeah, no, I'm on board with this. Put your Vinny in for that Roman Reigns and Eddie run. I am 100% behind this. Do you want to talk a little bit about your Eddie and Reigns run? Because that might be a little bit of history that people aren't too well aware of. A lot of people will reference your Eddie Guerrero, but they won't reference the fact that Eddie Guerrero was brought in as a hooded individual managing Roman Reigns.
Right. Well, it actually goes back to UCW days. So I've had like at least 4 or 5 different runs with Eddie, kind of a start-stop thing. But as it pertains to that particular role, though, I picked up. I think Roman Reigns was on the tail end of the failed Triple H run. I was still just kind of trying to okay, I still want to keep efeding. I want to keep trash talking and stuff like that. But it's just like, well, let's try somebody different though.
Because I think at that point you had Sting on SmackDown still.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you had anybody on Raw. Maybe Stone Cold every so often.
Possibly. And Eddie had been on Raw. Eddie had been on all the brands, actually. He'd been on Raw at least a couple times. He'd been on SmackDown at least once. But, so anyway, picked up Roman Reigns to do something different and I faced a few people, had a few pretty memorable feuds with, Sam's,
Who did Sam play?
I just lost his name. It was Dan Severn. That's what it was. Dan Severn.
Oh God.
Yeah.
I loved his Severn.
I did too. Especially because it's just like, well, I don't know anything about him, so I'm just gonna say like, hey, it's awesome, because it was that was a fun feud, and then got into it with Andrews Rollins because of course, hey, Rollins and Reigns, that's obvious, right? So
yeah.
So
that was a good feud. That was a really good feud, though.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I liked it a lot. I think he won the feud, which is okay. It was, that doesn't take away from the fun of it at all. Because
I think that was his Rollins heading into the international title scene for a little bit.
It was, and then something crazy happened with that. Like he was going to retire, so I think the belt got put on him because he was retiring, and then
he didn't.
He dropped the belt, and then it's just kind of like, well, hey, I'm actually sticking around after all. But anyway, that's off topic.
Dude, I'm all about off topic.
Obviously I am too. We've gone, all the way over here, and then I'll come back to the question like 15, 20 minutes later.
Hey, that's fine. That's how the Cran interview went. That's how all these are going to go. You think I prepped for this? Nah, I just want to see what's said and then just dive right in.
Yeah, that works for me. I mean, it's it's genuine. So, but those are the two main feuds I remember, and then I got into it with the cartel. The cartel by extension, but it was mainly like Chase's Rey Mysterio.
Well, because I remember a little bit, because when you were feuding with Rollins, Guerrero hadn't been revealed yet. And I think right as you were starting to feud with the cartel, you revealed it as Guerrero. So then that feud with Reigns and the cartel really turned into Eddie versus the cartel.
Right.
And your Eddie had a bit of like a darker edge to him.
Yeah, well, no, what it was, I think I'd got into it with like Ray and the cartel a little bit, and it's just kind of like, it's kind of like, well, I'm Roman Reigns, I'm going up against the cartel, so I want to I want to be the guy that just like runs through the whole group and everything like that. Yeah. And that didn't work out because that's a very, very tall order.
Oh yeah. It was a bunch of trash talkers that were, top of the line. You gotta, even on their worst day, you have to be at your best day, and so on and so forth.
Absolutely, because it's just kind of like, well, even though he was Eric Escobar, like that's still Ray,
Yeah, still Ray.
And even though it's like it's the Mexicals, WCW mid card is like it's Danny. Still Danny though, and anyway, so something happened with Reigns, and I was like floundering a little bit, and that's when I started like, hey, the Bloodhound Roman Reigns. Then was like still kind of floundering a little bit, so it's just like, okay, what if I bring like in like a mystery individual or whatever? And that was initially it was just kind of to put something behind Reigns or whatever, just to kind of give him a something new to do, just to kind of
a shot in the arm.
Yeah, a shot in the arm, breathe some fresh air into it, because I had plans, like, I had plans for Reigns when I dropped him, like possibly a tag team with Rosie, or like a heel turn, I kind of like a pretty boy gimmick. Actually, he was going to be the Samoan stud muffin.
Oh my God, I'm imagining Roman Reigns dressed as Tyler Breeze. Why was that my go-to? Not like Rick Rude, not like gorgeous. No, just went straight Tyler Breeze with the selfie stick and the pouty face.
Yeah, no, yeah, you definitely took it like, I meant the Rick Rude. Yeah, I meant Rick Rude, not Tyler Breeze. But
I figured you did.
That's hilarious, though. That's very funny.
You went stud. I went Prince Pretty.
Yeah. Well, you see, daggone it, man. Now I'm thinking like Roman Reigns coming out there with like the big fuzzy things on his thighs and all that stuff.
Doing the top rope lay down thing with the selfie stick, fixing his hair, his weirdly wet hair all the time.
Right. So started that mysterious individual thing, and of course I knew the whole time. It's just like, well, okay, this is going to be Eddie, and the way I'm going to tie it in is just kind of like, well, obviously he has a past with Ray, well, in real life WWE, but also UCW, UWF, and so of course he's going to back Roman, and try to help him develop the tools and utilize what he's learned to defeat the cartel. And then Sean said that he's like, hey, I'd like to pick up Roman Reigns. I was like, okay, well, yeah, that's fine. I'll drop Reigns. You can have Reigns. That's fine. Whatever. And then that's when I told whoever was booking, head writing at the time or whatever, it's just like, well, okay, hey, Sean wants Reigns, so I'm going to drop Reigns and let him have Reigns or whatever. And then like his, because he had a mystery thing going on at the same time, like with Punk, I think. Punk, or it was tied to Shawn Michaels or something like that. Anyway, so it's just like, hey, let Shawn have Reigns, and my mystery guy's Eddie. And then when they did the reveal, they didn't tell me when the reveal was going to be, where, how, but it was one of those things. It's like they didn't need to tell me, because it's like, oh, that was awesome, that was a great idea. the way they did that, and then it just turned into just magic and beautiful work the way that it went before back in the UCW days when I was feuding with Andrew's Rey Mysterio. That was a very cool thing because well, Chase is a good friend of mine, and we've booked together, wrote together, done a lot of podcasts together, so of course we play off of each other well in that respect. We play off of each other well as trash talkers, and there's like that mutual respect there. But also he was around for that feud with Andrew, and so it was easy for both of us to kind of do a new feud and tell a new story, but at the same time like incorporate elements of the other one into it. So it was kind of like a reboot and a sequel at the same time, sort of, if that makes sense.
No, it totally does. And running into Gert right now, I feel like I'm getting a lot of that too, because he was such a student of the old site that like he wasn't really around for a lot of the things that like you could reference or Danny could reference, but he still knows them. He can still play off of them. And you can sort of see that in the latest trash talk against me in my Daniel Bryan. I wasn't the original person to play Daniel Bryan, but he's still referencing things that the previous person did that I also know and can play off of as well. So yeah, I get the whole idea of like a sequel and a reboot at the same time.
Yeah, but to explain the darker edge to the Eddie Guerrero portrayal, because actually like between some of my runs with Eddie, there was actually a user by the name of Pegasus Kid. They picked up Eddie for a little while and played him the traditional way, the low rider, Viva La Raza and stuff like that. And it's not that I never did that, because like I did the Los Guerreros run, and that was the same thing, kind of like the vignettes they used to do on SmackDown, where they would like, hey Chavo, let's go, steal some golf clubs or whatever.
Oh man, I wish I was around for this. I would have loved to have faced that.
So
I also like sneaking in the Kerwin White reference right there with having Chavo steal some golf clubs. I don't think you meant to do that, but you did, and I love it.
No, I didn't mean to do that, but thank you. So I did that, and then kind of like the darker edge, like somebody from the old guard, I can't remember who it was, anyway, tried to tell me, it might have been EOR actually, but was like, hey, I like the character, and the reasoning was either they had a personal issue with the character, or it was kind of like the quote unquote problem that we have right now. It's like, hey, it's pretty heel heavy. You think you could turn face? It's like, this character doesn't work as a face. And it's like,
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that to be difficult. I'm saying that because it's impossible to write this character as a face. It just can't be done. And I tried to do it.
It would be like my Owen as a face. It just doesn't work.
Exactly. Much to my own chagrin, I tried it and it didn't work. And it's like, I told you it wouldn't work. Can I go back to being heel? Thank you. So, yeah, way back when I think this was like the first time I ever got second character privileges, and it's just like, okay, somebody different than Stone Cold, Eddie Guerrero, why not? And I don't know where the idea came from, because it's not something I had to think about very long, but all of a sudden it's just like, what would be an interesting gimmick? And then boom, that whole thing just popped into my head. Like I remembered all that stuff from like when he passed away, and like all those video tributes that they had like throughout the show, and like the announcement they did on WWE.com where they kind of had like the press conference ringside and like the empty arena or whatever. So all that stuff. And the gimmick was that Chavo and Vicky and everybody were just in on it. They were on a inside job. They resented the fact that Eddie came up to main event status, and so it was all an inside job, and that was all a ruse. that when Chavo found him dead in the hotel room, unresponsive and all that stuff, really he had just been drugged. And then I thought of, because not long after Eddie's death, it was kind of there were some conspiracy theories that like, oh, he's not actually dead, he's just like in Mexico, he's high, kind of a Tupac thing, like, oh, he's gonna come back when he's ready, he's gonna show up at WrestleMania, you'll see. So I kind of tied that in there too. So it's just so then it was kind of, UCW was Eddie's way back into wrestling, and that was his way to stick to Vince McMahon, was he's gonna spite everybody with his own success, and he doesn't have anybody left. He doesn't have Vicky, he doesn't have Chavo. He resents Rey Mysterio, and he wants to make Rey pay and everybody else pay and all that stuff. And so that was the backstory. He had to rise back through the ranks, start from the very, 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 very bottom, like the lowest of the low in the independents, and he didn't have his star power and he didn't have his name recognition. It was pretty much like he was starting all the way over. So he climbed and scratched and clawed his way to UCW, and that's where it went from there. And he was just this crazy, violent, vindictive character, kind of like how he was at the end of his WWE run when he had the feud with Mysterio, but with like the volume cranked up.
Yeah.
And that was definitely a fun character to play. Definitely a character that like I got into when I was writing the trash talks and the promos and stuff like that, because and this might be weird to say, but when you play a character for a while, or you're just kind of like invested in the portrayal or whatever, like when you're writing it, you're actually like visualizing it while you're writing it. You're kind of like, well, can I hear that character saying that, at least in the voice that I've created for him or whatever, just like their persona, like, well, what you were saying earlier, like you're giving your own portrayal, you're giving that character its own voice, like your version of that. So like you're sitting there and you kind of like visualizing that. So like when I would write trash talks and promos, I'm like visualizing like, okay, Eddie smirks and Eddie laughs and stuff like that. Like I'm visualizing the mannerisms like while I'm writing it. Like, okay, he'd do this here and he'd twitch there, and then it was crazy. It was a lot of fun. And then there was things like I think he broke off part of his own tombstone and ran down to the ring and hit Mysterio with it. And then
I think I remember that.
I remember when I pitched that,
wasn't there a coffin involved at some point too? There
was a coffin involved at some point, and then there was like some random promo. I think Gert brought it up actually, and that's how I found out, like, this guy knows more than I thought. It did some kind of promo, just some random picture I found on like a Google search, so it's just kind of like, okay, what can I do with this? Oh, this is a guy, just making a YouTube video like, hey, I'm here at Eddie Guerrero's grave, just here to pay respect, and Eddie would resent that, both because like, well, it's a false grave, he's not dead, and also it's just kind of like, oh, this is somebody else trying to capitalize off my name and the ruse and what people tried to do to me to screw me over and take my legacy away from me and everything,
to
like
literally bury the name of Eddie Guerrero.
Yeah, and he ends up bloodying this guy, just this random YouTube vlogger just bloodies him and stuff like that. And then Eddie would do other things. I can't remember who I was feuding with, but like I was in a first blood match, and in the trash talking thread, Eddie was like, it was something to the effect of, what are you going to do to me? And he took a steel chair and like busted himself open, he like drew blood on himself. So it's like, what are you going to do to me if I'm willing to do this to myself? It was kind of that thing. And I remember people even commented on that, might have been a pay-per-view thread. I don't know, but it's just like, yeah.
It might have been. If it was a first blood match, I feel like it was a pay-per-view.
Okay, but yeah, you're probably right. But I remember people saying like, as soon as he bloodied himself, like he had it won, like there, like yeah. When that happened, like yeah, he won. But no,
it's always interesting. Sorry to derail a little bit. Whenever like you can find that definitive moment, that one line, that one moment where it's just like, yup, that won the match right there. That one. It's always interesting whenever you have that like. That secret weapon up your sleeve, and like maybe you're not carrying it for a while, maybe it just falls into your lap and you're like, oh, I should just do this. Like it's always interesting to see those moments that like I wish I could go back to various threads and have them pointed out to me by the people who like pick the winner. It's just like this line right here, this is what won this match.
Well, yeah,
like,
I mean,
I would love to have a thread of match winner lines. Like
that would be awesome. That would be kind of like that would be really cool. The thing is, like early on, I used to save like my trash talks. Actually,
I never did.
Like for
I
the
regret
first
not
little
doing
bit.
that.
For the first little bit, like Stone Cold, yeah, I would save stuff, and I would save it under like, this was the day, this was the match. The weird thing though, like I would only save my material though. I wouldn't
not the other stuff. So it's just like it's like you're listening back on a phone call, but you only hear what you said.
Yeah, it's just like, well, why did I do it that way? Because it's like I don't know what they said to make me say this, you know. So it's just like
a weird echo chamber.
Yeah, but no, it's even though it's a cliche figure of speech, yeah, that. Finding that moment, finding that line is the cherry on top, or it's the bow on top of the gift, really. Like,
yeah.
And sometimes it's just them throwing in their catchphrase or something like that. So maybe it's okay. For example, maybe because I think you and Cran got one more match, don't you?
Yeah, I challenged him to a match at SummerSlam. It might not be confirmed yet, but that would be the dream. Would be one last match at SummerSlam before we possibly go our separate ways.
Okay.
The brand split.
Okay, so
like that in kayfabe, that's how I'm building it up. It's just like, you know, in reality, we know that Triple H is going to stay on Revolution, but
right.
Daniel Bryan, like. You know, we don't really know that for sure in kayfabe, and Daniel Bryan could end up on either brand. So it's like that sort of like, you're the monkey on my back. I can't move on until I know one way or the other. Can I beat you?
Okay.
So there's like a weird sort of babyface mechanic to it, but it's still Daniel Bryan, so he's still a cocky shit face heel.
Right.
Like
there's actually some characters, man, that it took me a while of like reading their stuff to know,
figure out face or heel.
Yeah, what alignment they were. Like for the first little bit, Cran might have actually had to say it though. I was like, Triple H is the face in this? Like what? Like so,
yeah.
not only
and like
Triple H doing a redemptive arc, but he's a baby face. Like what?
Yeah, and I think like there's only one other character in the Fed right now that he could be a baby face against, and that's Gert. Like I said in the Discord the other day, the only alignments you need to know is like no matter what, Daniel Bryan and Jimmy Jacobs are the heels.
Right.
Like
and
there's no one else. Everyone else can play both fields. Everyone if you put Skrull against, you know, like Matt Hardy's the face and Skrull's the heel. But if you put like Matt Hardy against Cesaro, Matt Hardy would probably be the heel and Cesaro the face, and like
I can't
so
see,
on and so forth.
Yeah, I can't see Matt Hardy as a heel just because of, like that apple pie line on. Oh my gosh, that thread that he had with Post was. God, I love that exchange. That was just wonderful. Well,
but like
no
I just feel
no
like
pun intended, but yes, it was wonderful.
But like I just feel like everyone can sort of pull out more face tendencies or heel tendencies depending on who they're going up against. Like Cesaro might not be like white meat babyface, but he's got that, like working class, I earned my shot, I earned my title, I earned my defenses sort of thing. And like Matt Hardy's sort of like the wacky guy.
Yeah.
So he would come in a little more heelish.
Well,
But like no matter what, if you go up against Jacobs or Bryan, you might not be the face, but you're not the heel.
Yeah, no, it's just like, no, that spot's taken, but you don't understand. Yeah. I'm a heel. Yeah, not this match. Sorry.
Yeah, no, like this. Yeah, you're getting the comeback this match. Whatever. Like no. I'm the heel. Look at me. I am the heel now.
Yeah, I'm the heel. Now. They hate me.
Check my pulse. I'm still the best.
Check my pulse. I'm still the best.
I'm taking that. I'm taking that line.
Good. Let that be your cherry on top moment. Because that's what I was getting at. Is sometimes they just do it with a catchphrase.
I can't upload this until I write my next trash talk now because I'm using that line in it. And I need it to hit people. And then this needs to drop on them. Like, oh, this was workshopped by accident. As are all of my lines.
It's like, dang it, Swedish is cheating, man. That's the number one contender to the
to be fair,
championship, giving him pointers.
Gert gave me a line to use against him because in the Discord he kept calling Skrull dead weight after their match, and I'm like, yup, that's mine now. I'm always reading, I'm always listening, I'm always waiting. Like, it's the stupidest thing.
Well,
the way my brain works. Where I'll just see something that someone says and run with it. Did you know that the Bryan turn came from Brandon Chase? And he has no idea?
Well, hang on a second, because there's a few thoughts I'm holding on to that if I don't say, I'm going to forget. Okay,
go for it.
The point I was saying earlier with the catchphrase, so like if you and Crane get this third match, so maybe you're just like putting out one of the best trash talks that you've ever done. So I can see myself like reading the material like, yes, this is good. You just roasting him, letting him have it. And then you just finish it off with something like, because I'm maybe that's when you use the line, because check my pulse. Yeah, still the best or whatever, that's that moment. You're just like, that was,
or even something
beautiful.
Like, and when I win, you'll know my victory was absolute. Something like that.
Yeah. No, yeah, absolutely, stuff like that. And the other two things have to do with what we were talking about with character alignment. You said that what you were saying about Cesaro. I don't know that I've ever come out and said this, though, but Soup's Cesaro kind of, especially when I was facing him at, especially our triple threat match leading into Backlash, his Cesaro reminds me a lot of how I used to play Sting, actually. Like when he would say stuff like, it's not that I want to win this, I have to win this. I can't he said, I can't let the title get into y'all's hands. They need somebody that actually has their best interest in mind and isn't selfish.
God, you're right.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that puts it in a whole new light. And sort of explains why he was champion. If there's parallels to your Sting, maybe he probably doesn't realize it, but yeah, like having parallels to a proven world champion and a main event level.
Well, I wasn't saying all that. I was just saying, hey,
you
he
weren't
reminds
saying
me of
that,
Sting.
but I'm saying that.
Well, thank you. But also, with my character alignment right now with Vinny, I have purposefully, and I don't know that anybody's noticed this or not, I have purposefully done something different with Vinny that I haven't done with any other character before. The crowd almost never reacts to him. They don't boo or cheer when he comes out. They don't boo or cheer when he says anything, when he pauses while he's talking. and stuff like that. They don't do it. There have been like segments here and there that I've wrote with like other people or something like that, or maybe somebody else answering, and the trash talk will be like, well, like, okay, the festival at Jericho where they're like, we want Vinny, little things like that. But for the most part, no. Like his whole run though, like I've done that intentionally. Like, okay, he said this, he insulted them, he threatened their life or whatever, but I don't put the crowd cheers, the crowd boos, the crowds, anything like that.
You're not forcing the dynamic. You're just letting it develop naturally.
Yes, it's just kind of like, here he is.
Here it is. Judge him as you will.
And I'm glad I did that, because then, it kind of opens up the conversation and people get to talk about like, hey, what do you think he is? Like Danny said the other night in the Discord, because everybody was, brought up again. There's a lot of stuff that comes up in the Discord. It seems like there's a few things that it always comes back around to. Well, of course, like, I'm going to cash in. No, you're not, Gert. Yes, I am. I'm going to cash in on your birthday. I'm going to cash in on your wedding anniversary, Cran, or whatever, like your wedding day. I'm going to cash in. Like, you're not even champion, and I'm going to be on Revolution. But for some reason, I'm going to make it happen. On your wedding day, I'm going to just jump brands, and I'm going to cash in on your top champion. And, so that comes up, the cash in. Age differences, that comes up a lot. Like, oh, you guys are so young. Well, you guys are so old. And also... something else. And then the third thing is like how heel heavy we are. And then the conversation always opens up. It's just like, well, technically, like I'm trying to be face, but it doesn't really work. And so anyway, the last time that came up, Danny's like, well, Vinny's kind of a tweener, but he's kind of playing him more face-ish like right now. But yeah, stuff like that. That's one of the reasons that I kind of wanted to leave his alignment up in the air. Just for the sake of doing something else different than I have in the past, but also to just kind of like,
it opens things up for you to develop the character however is natural. If you go on a winning streak and then you sort of then you have like the leeway, like, do I want him to remain humble by this, or do I want this to go to his head? If you're playing him as a heel and he wins a lot, then it has to go to his head. You can't make him humble unless you're turning him face. Right. If you're leaving the alignment up in the air, you basically have like a lump of clay, and you can mold it however the needs arise.
Exactly.
And that's something that sort of tripped a lot of people up in the past, where like you'll notice them, like, they'll nail down their alignment, like, I'm a bad guy, and then like they win a little bit, and then they sort of hit a wall, whether it's just like a level of trash talker that they can't really seem to crack. Like maybe they'll go up against people like myself and Cran and come up short, or they'll go up against more solidified like main eventers on the level of like Gert, Chase, and Soup.
Right.
I say Chase, I mean Brandon Chase, because we have Chase and then Brandon Chase, so right. I feel like I have to make that difference. Not to say Chase isn't a main eventer,
right?
Because he has been. But or like they'll go up against like the main event level, and like and then that's when you get people that like they'll lose for a little bit, and then they'll just drop the character. Like, I don't know where to take them from here. I have this idea of like this bad guy who does this. Like, well, why does he have to be a bad guy who does this? Why can't he be a bad guy who does that and this?
Well, that's
why can't he just do this? Why can't he just do this and that and like add on to it? Like,
well,
leaving it open ended.
To a degree, that's when you kind of run into an Effects of Raven situation where it's just kind of like, I think this was, I was helping book SmackDown, and he was Raven, and something like, anyway, I don't know. It was a brand that I was booking. It was something. I don't know. It was some brand. So I was booking it, and I was booking him. And it's just like, why are you booking me on weekly shows and normal singles matches? Raven only competes in hardcore matches, and it needs to be at pay-per-views. Like, no. That's ridiculous. And then it's just like, okay, I'm dropping him. Like, okay.
Not all right. I feel like because I also want to use these as like a way to like not just delve into the past and go on nostalgia trips and ask questions that I just want to personally have the answer to. I want other people to be able to glean stuff away from this, to take something away to sort of evolve their own game in some way. Because like we got a lot of newbies here, we got a lot of people that don't have any efed experience. We have people that have different styles of efed experience. So like I want these to also be a way for people to like learn. And I think character alignment is definitely something people can learn from, because if you look at the old UWF, a lot of it was very much, are you face or you heel? Oh, Raw's too heel heavy, I'm going to trade you to SmackDown, which is too face heavy, so on and so forth. So like feuds can't really get going, you're sort of deadlocked in who you can face. Like, well, you're a mid-card heel, this is the only mid-card face, so you're feuding.
Right.
But like alignment can be very fluid.
Yeah.
You can like, if you shoehorn yourself into a certain alignment or a certain character arc and just say like, this is who my character is and nothing will change, well then when you lose, something has to change.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times people see that as, well, I guess my character has to change, and they'll drop their character. Like, okay, so you built up 3 months of momentum with this character, you've built up these stories, you have this backstory now to draw from, and now you're just going to drop the character for something new. Like, that doesn't sit right with me.
Well, also it like screws over the next guy. It's just like, okay, so well, you do like I'm going to do something that hasn't been seen on WWE TV in over a decade. I'm going to play Thugonomics Cena, and I'm going to come out and write the best battle raps you've ever seen in EFEDs. And yeah, they, like you said, they do that for a little while and then kind of like fizzle out because they're losing. They're not getting ahead like they think they are. And then they just drop them out of nowhere, and maybe they disappear off the face of the earth. Maybe they pick up somebody else. But the point is, the next person that wants to play John Cena, because he's an established
now
guy,
has some weird 2-month gap where it's like, yeah, ignore that.
No, we're not going to ignore that, especially because they'll get an opponent and be like, no, I remember that, and forgetting that and ignoring that is exactly what you want me to do, which is why I'm not going to do it, and I'm going
like
to
Foch with his gay Dolph Ziggler.
Yeah.
It wasn't his gay Dolph Ziggler, but he brings him up every so often, so it might as well be his anymore. Like it's just one of those things where like you don't have to have a solid alignment. It can change to the needs of the match. It can change to the needs of the feud. It can change to the needs of the character.
And
I can honestly turn Daniel Bryan face right now.
Right.
I can write him an arc that turns him face. I'm not. I have no plans to. I will drop him before I do that because there's other stories I would rather tell with him.
Right.
Daniel Bryan leaves as an uber heel. End of discussion. When I'm done with Daniel Bryan, when I am done with heel Daniel Bryan, I'm just done with Daniel Bryan. I have told all the stories I needed to tell, and it's time to just move on to something else, whether it's face, heel, or something in between.
Right. Well, Lidl's is probably the best, like, most prominent example that comes to mind for that. You know, that it's just kind of like what the storyline is asking from you. And I say asking from you because it's just kind of like, well, it's asking it from you in the respect that that's your own personal takeaway. You know, it's not like Danny's booking it or there's pressure on Lidl's or whoever it is from anybody to be like, okay, you're going to have to be more sympathetic in this. You know, this is how I want you to portray your character and everything like that. It's just that's how he read the situation. And that's why you see things like, Miz has said things in the past, like, you know, little does the crowd know, you know, I need the crowd more than I'll ever let them know, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And can I actually win and stuff like that? It's just like, wow, I've
building
never
layers onto a character. Like he's still heel for the most part, but you build that little bit of sympathy so that if he's acting more face tendency, it makes sense.
Exactly. and it's I
Yeah,
mean
Lidl's probably of the newer guys has the most like if you want to look at a good way to evolve a character over time without it feeling shoehorned, look at what he's done with Miz from when he started, brought in the hired guns, how he's developed them and developed Miz alongside them to be essentially two different characters now.
yeah,
Hired guns were brought in as hired guns. Now they have their own dynamic, their own personality, in contrast to Miz's personality and dynamic, which has also evolved since.
exactly. And it's another one of those things. It's like, how's he been doing this for this short amount of time? And he's like that good because like not only is he good, but stuff like that, like adding like sympathetic and doubtful layers to a character like Miz, like I never would have thought of that.
That's a sentence you just said out loud.
And and you and I both know because you've been fetting long enough to just with the old guard and in the old past that's one of those things that it's just like, well, of course a newbie's going to try to do something like that. That's why you see people that's why you see things like somebody would do a testing ground and it's like, well, I'm going to play CM Punk, but he's a drug addict. This one's not straight edge. What?
Yeah.
And this is Edge, but he's denouncing Canada. He's full-fledged American, So you
stop giving me
like
promos to write, Dresden.
So in the past, it would be kind of like, well, okay, whatever.
You're just doing something different for the sake of doing something different.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, play your doubtful Miz. That's fine. You're only going to stick around for a few weeks anyway. So
play your anarchist Jack Swagger.
Yeah. Or your gay Dolph Ziggler, your British Mark Henry, whatever you want to do. That's fine. Yeah.
Was that a thing?
No, yeah, I'm not making it up. Yeah, Andrew was Mark Henry for a short time, and it wasn't like full blown like, hey, he's British.
Oi, mate, it's time for tea.
Yeah, no, he put at the end of one of his trash talks, yeah, hello. So
the Silsby, Texas boy going, hello, hello, governor.
Hello, I'm the world's strongest man. I'm gonna pick you up and drop you on your back there. Yeah, somebody's gonna get their
everything's bigger in Texas, innit, mate?
Yeah.
just slam it all together. Oh man, I miss that. No, I have regrets.
It was short lived, it's just one of those random things that I remember, like, hey, yeah, but yeah. So stuff like that. But anyway, no, but so that's another reason it's cool, because like in the past, it's one of those things that, like, yeah, in the past, if you would have told me, like, hey, a new guy's going to come along and he's going to, try this with Miz, it just kind of like on paper, it seems like crazy, just like in practice, just in the pitch, like, well, that wouldn't work. How would you execute that?
You can't. It's one you can't just jump into.
Exactly.
You have to build to it. It's one of those, like, yeah, it sucks. Like when you, like, I'm guilty of this all the time. When you have an idea for a story and you're like, man, in 3 months, I want to be 3 months from now.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, so we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. And I'm like, man, I want to get to the last point now, but I can't because we need the other 2 points to build to the last point.
Right.
And I'm just like sitting there with my arms crossed and a pouty face, like, harumph.
Well, I can actually say that about a lot of characters right now, though. Like, okay, well, I've touched on what Lidl's just pulled off that I wouldn't think was possible. I've talked about what Cran's pulled off, like a redemptive arc for Triple H. Like, Triple H, I gotta see this. What? And then, like,
I feel like we're pulling that off pretty well.
Well, no, you are. That's what I'm saying. Like, at first, I'm like, I don't know about this. But I was kind of skeptical.
That's kind of why I needed to make, like, because I knew I was feuding with Triple H as Daniel Bryan. Like, I was coming back for essentially 2 feuds. I wanted to feud with Dolph Ziggler as Daniel Bryan and then Foch's Kevin Steen is Daniel Bryan. Well, Steen was just back for a little retirement arc, essentially. So that was off the table.
Yeah.
And then Crane was switching off Ziggler, so I'm just like, I threw my arms up in the air, like, well, I guess I'm not coming back. And then I forget whether Danny or Crane himself told me that he was picking up Triple H, and I was like, okay, wait a minute.
Well, I guess
this works.
I guess to expand upon that further, well, at first, like, hey, I'm picking up Triple H. What? Like, okay, this is, okay, let's see.
What you do with them.
Yeah.
Because he knows enough of his backstory in UWF, so it's like, well, he's not going to ignore it, but what is he going to do with it?
Yeah, so Littles and Crane are perfect examples. You're a perfect example because, well, at first it's just like, okay, this is going to be exactly like Hoove. And even reading it, I'm like, this is exactly like Hoove. Like, I can't even get through this stuff. I can't even get through this stuff. Like, I felt the exact same as I did when I used to, like, see his trash talks, or like, even if I would draw him as an opponent, like, well, I know this is how this is going to go. I know what the trash talks are going to say. I know what the promo on the weekly show is going to say, and I know what the outcome is going to be. So,
I love it.
So,
I'm sorry that you had to feel that way, but that is perfect. Like, that is, I wanted to invoke that feeling in, like, the veterans that were really like, no, not this again. I was like, yes,
right,
yes, this
but,
again.
However, that was very short-lived because it was pretty. I found out pretty quickly that you were doing something different. So yes, you are the uber heel, that oozes arrogance and everything like that, but you're another example like Crane and Littles that's just kind of like, oh, okay, he did make it work and he did do something cool with it and he made it awesome. And Heel Boy is another example because, like,
his Punk, I love it. I love that Photoshop of him dressed as the priest. I want more things like that.
Yeah, that was very.
I'm all
very
for
cool.
Smarmy fucking Punk and dressed up in garb as like, I want gimmick Punk. I love gimmick Punk. Give me more.
That was one of those things that I was like, there's no way. Like, as long as CM Punk's been out of wrestling and all the MMA stuff, Foch and I talked about this personally because we were talking about, like, old stuff, and he's like, have we ever gone this long without a Punk? I was like, I don't think so. I was like, I don't think anybody could ever pick up Punk again, though, and make it work because, every opponent would be like, MMA, you left wrestling. You got beat up even though you trained for 3 or 4 years. You got your ass kicked,
Can you say MMA again in that voice?
And then it would be
MMA.
And
I want every UFC promo to start with you saying MMA.
And then whoever was playing Punk would just got, like, sick of this. Like, okay, I'm sick of having to fight back against, like, the same material, like the same trash talks and all that stuff. And then they drop him. But I was wrong. And Heel Boy proved me wrong very quickly. Like, no, okay, it's possible to play a Punk in this current wrestling climate. It's very cool, but yeah, I'm sure there's more examples, but those are the first 4 that pop into my head, though.
So we went on a very big tangent, and this stemmed from me asking you, who would you want your Vinny to feud with from the pre-reboot UWF? So now let's do the reverse. Okay. You've had a lot of characters in the past.
Yeah.
I can start naming some just so people can sort of see the different scope that you played. Obviously, we've mentioned your Stone Cold, your Sting, your Roman Reigns and Eddie Guerrero. You also played the Three Faces of Foley, and I'm sure there's a dozen others that I just either wasn't around for or completely forget.
Let's see. The main runs that were actually around long enough to accomplish something. Because most of my main guys I played for, like, years and years and years. Whether it was, like, consistent, like,
or off and on. Like with
Yeah.
your Guerrero is off and on, your Stone Cold is off and on. Your Sting, I think, had a very consistent run
for the most
when
part.
I first
Yeah. So Stone Cold, all the way through, pretty much. Well, like you said, it was pretty much textbook Stone Cold, and then Sting, who went through just like various character changes and tweaks and stuff like that. So
he was probably. I don't mean this in a negative way. He was probably your most volatile character because like your current Sting would fit in very well in the climate of the UWF as it now with very flexible face heels. Your Sting was very, very flexible in those regards.
well, I don't take offense to that at all because I say the same thing. He was the most, and that's not to call the others one dimensional. It's just Sting was.
They had a more strict parameter that they would operate in, whereas your Sting was basically like full spectrums available, boys. Who am I facing? Oh, I'm facing heel Kevin Nash for the title. This one's out here for all the little stingers. Sting.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm facing like up and comer underdog baby face. Time to bring out Steve Borden because I think that was the thing you did for a little bit.
It is. Yeah, that's what I was about to go through the whole scope real quick. Yeah, I was the only two I didn't do was I didn't do Surfer Sting, even though people wanted me to, and I didn't do Silent Sting. But everything else, I was
oh my god. Surfer Sting and Edge and Christian.
Yeah, that was.
Can we do this?
Yeah.
Can we
sure.
do this? Yes. Don't know when it'll happen though. Even though I retired Edge and Christian.
Might be SummerSlam. Who knows?
Who knows? Maybe it's Starrcade, so I can lose another promo.
There you go.
Another massive joint promo to the ether, like the last Starrcade. I missed that Miz and Morrison joint promo. It was a 3-segment promo we wrote.
Yeah, I think I remember that actually. But no, it was it was Sting that was kind of you would get like the feud with Edge.
Slim's Edge, not my Edge.
Yeah, not your Edge. Sorry. Yeah, Slim's Edge, where he came back in the Royal Rumble as fake Sting to eliminate Steve Borden, which led to the return of the real Sting, and like Sting would amp up the seriousness to the degree that there was a segment that it cut away to Sting in like an undisclosed location, and he had people had like Edge's mom tied to a chair, and like Sweet Poppy Sanchez, who trained Edge, people like that, like bound to a chair, and then it would he'd wind up with the bat, and then it would cut away, and then it's implied that he hit him with the bat, so he could amp up the seriousness in that. If he had to play mind games, he could amp up the seriousness if it's just kind of all you're doing is poisoning the ears and the minds of the people that have to listen to your villainous rhetoric. I'm the paragon of virtue, I am the hero of light, and I will bring my fist of justice crashing through all that is wrong about the air that you pollute this with, so stuff like that.
Yeah.
But also
in the Elimination Chamber thread, when you're going up against Cody Rhodes, who had just debuted as Stardust in WWE, which Ray hated, you would pull up a picture of Stardust and be like, ooh,
yeah,
look at this.
Yeah, like stuff like that, and ramp up the goofiness in other ways where this isn't really a UWF thing. This was like a UCW thing. It was a battle royal to crown the ECW, one of the championships on ECW. Anyway, Anna King was playing Big Daddy V in that battle royal. So you had Anna King's Big Daddy V and Matt Striker. You had Ray's JBL, my Sting. I don't remember who else was in it, but anyway, Sting kind of went on this tirade about stuff like that. Did this bit about he told Matt Striker something like, well, hey, make sure you have a pack of crackers or something like that, because our big boys, got to keep his strength up. It's a long walk from the back to the ring or whatever, stuff like that. And then, yes, Sting had 2 heel runs. He did the Yeah, the Steve Borden run where it's just kind of like, no, Sting is dead, so no face paint, no jacket, no bat, no music, like don't cheer me, don't say anything about that character. That's not me anymore. And then there was the Wolfpack Sting run where it was kind of the same thing. It's just like, but it's kind of like, oh, it's supposed to be somebody else under the paint. And then it turned out like, well, no, it's not somebody. I'm the same person. I was just kind of trying to separate myself from that for other reasons. And but yeah, long story short, he was the most versatile, diverse one that covered the most ground and stuff like that. But it was Stone Cold, Sting, Faces of Foley, Eddie Guerrero, and
we could throw Reigns in there. You had a good run as Reigns.
Well, thank you. Roman Reigns, and I played Triple H for a little bit, didn't accomplish anything, but I played Triple H. I played of course, Stone Cold had a stable, he had
oh
Jake
my God,
Roberts.
the Snakebite Syndicate, right?
Yeah, Snakebite Syndicate. So I had Jake Roberts and DDP around.
Dallas Page.
And had a rap battle with Not Love's three life crew. Yeah, stuff like stuff like that, And I remember because like Jake said a little something, and I had DDP say a little something, and like Stone Cold like raps 2 bars. He said something like, "Here comes the lightning," or something about lightning and thunder. Now here comes the stunner, and then he just like and then of course that broke down because Stone Cold's not gonna rap. But Snakebite Syndicate. They had a match or two like here and there, but they were mostly there to like give me something else to do as Austin, and plus like I love Jake and DDP, so it just gave me something else to do. And then the Wyatt family, which I was Intercontinental Champion as Wyatt, and I didn't remember that until Danny told me. He's like, "Hey man,
oh my God, I also didn't remember you even played the Wyatts, and now it's starting to all flood back to me."
Yeah, he said, "Hey man, I'm trying to update the title history. How long did you have the Intercontinental Championship as Wyatt?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I was champion as Wyatt, wasn't I?"
Oh yeah, I was Wyatt, wasn't I?
Oh no, I remembered being Wyatt. I just didn't remember winning the title because that run was kind of like I was out of steam. I was burnt out. I was just kind of going through the motions, and it's just like I'm probably.
I think I faced your Wyatts.
Possibly.
I think I faced Rowan and Strowman. Because you had Strowman in it, right?
Yeah, I was the I was the whole stable. I told Danny, I was like, well, I've always wanted to play.
Well, it could have been pre Strowman Wyatts as well, but no, I think you had Strowman at this point.
I did. No, I did.
I think I faced you. I think I faced your Wyatts. But who the hell did I face them as? Owen?
No, I did. Possibly. You know what? Maybe.
Why was Owen facing the Wyatts?
I have no idea.
Who was I teaming with?
I don't know.
Because maybe I was facing just Wyatt. I think it was just Wyatt, and you had all of them talk for him.
Yeah, I had the
Wyatt
whole,
said some stuff.
Yeah, I had the whole stable, and because Rowan and
that gives me chills. I would love to redo that match.
Rowan and Harper were like booked as a tag team at the same time.
Yeah.
Wyatt was a singles guy, and Strowman had like a match here and there, but most of the
he was
trash
the muscle.
talks, yeah,
like
most of the trash talks I had all 4 talking, and that was pre his singles push in WWE, pre get these hands, pre all that stuff, obviously.
When he was the black sheep still.
Yeah, the black sheep, and might have won the tag straps as Rowan and Harper. Come to think of it, I'm not sure.
I can't remember.
I can't remember either. But anyway, long story short, yes, I've played a lot of people. So Wyatt family, Reigns, Guerrero, Sting, Stone Cold, and Faces of Foley, the main ones.
So those were all pre-reboot and maybe like UCW, which predates UWF anyway.
Yes.
So those characters, you can pick as many of them as you want to come up with answers for this next question for.
Mm-hmm.
But of those characters, which ones would you want to face off against current post-reboot UWF characters and trash talkers?
Well, That's a good question. I'm kind of
You have a wide variety of your own characters to choose from, and a very wide variety of current people, and even characters that people might have even switched off of by this point.
I'd be kind of hesitant to bring back Austin for a few reasons because, like, yeah, well, for one, like Rust, I don't know that I could play him effectively anymore. Plus, I'm kind of self-conscious about it because I know that there were people that weren't that crazy about the character like towards the end or anything like that. Like Danny was one of them. Actually, he was kind of because they're towards the end, like before they shut down the site and all that stuff. It's just kind of like, well, I remember we were talking. He's like, well, just Austin's kind of got repetitive, just kind of like who's Daniel Bryan. It's just like there's like a handful of characters on in the brand right now that are just kind of like just become repetitive, kind of shells of their former selves, whatever you want to call it. So I honestly don't know that I'd bring Austin back. And honestly, any of my former characters that I would bring back to the fold would probably be Sting. Actually, and the main reason for that is just because of how diverse a character that is, and how I agree with you. I think he'd fit in, and I had a lot of fun. Playing that character, and there's still kind of that second guessing thing about that, but I think it'd be easier to get back into Sting mode than it would be for Stone Cold or somebody else like that. And the main reason for that is because Sting is kind of the polar opposite of what I'm doing right now with Vinny. So, it's just kind of like, well, in a way, I just kind of got to do the opposite.
It balances you out as well.
Yes. So as far as like particular specific opponents, though, it's kind of the same thing. Just I'd want to just see how I would do with everybody. Just see how I could hang and stuff like that. If I did bring back Austin, I would probably just kind of strictly want to face people that I've faced before. Like that's kind of weird to say, I guess, but I can't really explain why. But I just kind of feel like, well, if I brought Austin back, it would probably just be kind of like a
you get that sort of comfort level with it, where like they sort of know how your Austin operates, and they can sort of play into that to really
exactly
make it a good session. I get that mentality.
Yeah, so it would be like Crayon, Foch, maybe a few more, but definitely those two.
No Albo or Tap Out?
Well, no. Okay, yeah, that's fair. Sorry. That's another sign of my memory kind of.
No, you're fine. Because they're sort of laying low right now. It feels like they're just like that talent is still there. They're starting. Tap Out was away for a while. He's starting to come back into it. Same thing with Elbow, and it's just like one of those things where like at any moment they can just break away and run away with it.
Yeah.
Sort of deal.
Right.
But they do sort of feel like they're in that laying low stage. It's like, I just came back. I'm just sort of feeling things out, just sort of rolling with the punches, sort of thing going on with them.
Right. Now, that's not to say that I haven't read. That's not to say that I don't read things and think of like, what would Stone Cold say to that? What would Sting say to that? Because when Cran did that Sami Zayn thing in the Performance Center, I actually wrote out like a Sting trash talk. I had like the whole thing wrote out. Then I second guessed myself, and I'm just like, I'm not gonna post that.
Oh, that would have been killer. I would love to see you posting that return thread. Or did you already? The one that Danny started, and then everyone's snowballed into.
No, I don't think I touched that one.
Gotcha.
Yeah, no, I don't think I touched that one. I think the only thing I put in the Performance Center was Charitista.
Charitista.
And then Foch was like,
Christ.
he's like, dude, he's like, I love Charitista so much. Can I please book him in UCFW? And I'm like, yeah, that was That's actually kind of what I was hoping for. He's like, awesome, I'll put you on the next thing. So, no, it would
And I
definitely
did
be.
sort of the opposite, where I just sort of posted in UCFW. I'm like, I'm just gonna be in this now with Kyle. I was like, I miss that magical bird. Easiest trash talks I've ever written. I just have to say one word and describe what they mean.
Yeah, no, I love that because I'm probably misquoting, but it was something like, yeah, all he said is "coo coo," and
Yeah, he just says "coo." That's it.
very eloquent. He has such a way with words. Yeah, no,
I
love that.
I haven't posted it for UCFW yet. I've been meaning to, because I've been toying with two different ideas. To just play it similar to how I did the first one and just like go super overboard with like the narrator describing what those words mean, like what the actions imply and things like that. Like someone doing a book report on like a comic book, and the comic book writer's just like, he's just punching a bad guy in the face. There's no like classist overtone, like something like that sort of deal. Or to give them translators where it's Bill and Ted, but it's just Edge and Christian dressed as Bill and Ted, but we don't address that fact. We just call them Bill and Ted. So you can see how my brain works.
Yes.
Because my Edge and Christian were basically just like the Bill and Ted, dude, where's my car style of talking. Where it's like, dude, what are you doing? Oh man, sweet, that's awesome, dude. Like, I was just like, how many ways can I fill gaps with just like 80s and 90s slang for saying something is cool? Yo, dude, that's rad. Awesome, man.
Yeah.
And that's an Edge and Christian trash talk right there. So those were my two ideas for UCFW, and I haven't decided which one I'm going to do. I'll probably do some other third thing. Who knows?
That's something, before we, keep talking about something else, that's kind of a guilty thing I'll admit to. Like, most of the stuff I post in UCFW, like, I'm very much laughing at my own like material. I mean, I know that makes
I love shared systems so much.
I know that makes me sound like a mark for myself or whatever, but I can't help it. Even the Wildberry Pop-Tart thing that I wrote like recently, I was just laughing so hard while I was writing it. I almost couldn't get it like typed out, man. I was just laughing that hard, and I'd go back and read it, and I'd just like start cracking up or whatever. I was like, that's ridiculous. How did I even think of that stuff, man? It's just, oh man, it's a lot of fun though.
Oh man, it's always fun whenever like someone just like, screw it, I'm just gonna do something, and it's just like wasabi. Like wasabi is probably like the closest that we have to not wasabi, YOLO. I get those two confused all the time.
No, it's because they tag together all the time.
I know.
Just remember, man.
Wasabi's great. Wasabi's great too, but like what YOLO does, he's just like, I'm just gonna do whatever, and it's gonna make someone laugh. And he's right. It makes me chuckle almost every time I read his material.
Me too. Yeah.
But like, I love whenever you have somebody doing comedy like that, where it's just like they understand the absurdity of wrestling, and they're just like, they're not letting themselves be bound by like, it's wrestling, it's gotta be super duper real.
Nah, like, you're not taking this seriously.
Orange Cassidy threw orange juice in Daniel Bryan's eyes during the Ultimate X match.
You want to know that was another thing, like
like, I love it.
Well, no, definitely that, but for some reason, man, for the longest time, like, because I didn't know anything about the gimmick, I'm just like, okay, Orange Cassidy or whatever, but I always thought, like, instead of associating him with orange juice, I didn't know orange juice was the thing. I'm like, okay, Orange Cassidy, for some reason, I was thinking like orange soda, kind of like a Kel thing, you know?
Who loves orange soda?
And there's actually some stuff that I had planned out, like before I found out that, like, oh no, it's not going to be Gulak and Cassidy. It's going to be one or the other that you're going to be facing. So I'd actually thought of a few things like for that, like to build towards that feud that I was going to pitch to Yola. Actually, it might have been, towards the build, like, well, which one is Vinny going to face? Anyway, I was going to pitch something Like there's gonna be some kind of segment that anyway it involved a carton of orange juice, and he goes to like pour a glass, or Vinny like squeezes it. Anyway, it's a carton of orange juice and blood comes out of it. Like somehow,
Nice.
like that's the concept, like maybe he goes, like I said, maybe Vinny just squeezes it in the ring, and it's just like, where'd the blood come from? Why is there blood coming out of that? Or yeah, he's just like, oh, but
a nice little metaphor right there, like talking about how he's gonna like squeeze his hopes out, and like it's
exactly, yeah, you
cryptic
get it.
metaphor.
You get it. Because he's the horror king.
Yeah, like I feel like we sort of can like connect on a weird level with some of our characters.
Yes.
Like we've played a very diverse range of characters, sometimes at the same time. So like, I get Chartista and I get Vinny, and I get how you can write them both. You could literally write one and then 2 minutes later write the other one.
Right.
Like, I get that dynamic. I went from writing Edge and Christian basically like image for image redoing the Punch Out training montage, and then Owen Hart in a hospital coloring the walls in his own blood, writing messages, and I'm like, yep, I could probably still do both of those back to back.
Well, see, that's another reason that because you played Owen, like you get Eddie too. So you understand like the Eddie Guerrero character in a way that like, few, if any, people would get in the same way that you get,
and like the nuances of it too, similar. Like because you're like, yeah, like the family drug deal, and it's like, oh yeah, tragic backstory, love it.
Yeah, love it's like, and he would, Owen's gonna twitch his eye here, and he's gonna and
that's where like it changes. And like I loved how I needed to add on, because like if you remember the first time we brought Owen, he was always the psychopath.
Yes.
He was always like, and that's why like I changed the colors up. Like I had 2 colors. I was like, I need the pink Owen. I need because I tried to bring him back as just like a reformed baby face, because I didn't bring Owen back to bring him back the second time. It was supposed to be a one-off.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was when I was on NXT with Danny, and I was like, Danny, I sent him a message because like I want to come back, but I still felt a little sour in my stomach from my previous run. I was like, I want to come back. I want to win 0 matches. I want to just come back so I can write. You put me up against new people so they can get a win, or people that are on losing streaks so they can get a win, get like a good challenge, and like get that little like boost, like, okay, yeah, this character still has legs and I can keep going. I'm just like, yeah, I get to write whatever.
Well,
like
that's
I went up against Jeff Jarrett and ODB in a mixed gender match. I was like, because Danny would just give me people. He was like, you're going to face this person this week. And sometimes I would have to see the card to see who I was going to face. And all of a sudden it's like, hey, man, it's like I read the card. It's like mystery against Jeff Jarrett and ODB in an intergender match. I'm like, who the hell am I going to be? And I was like, Edge but Christian's in a wig. And that was it. And I was like, that's the gimmick. And then I faced, because there was a broken Matt Hardy on the site at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like TNA's, like this is when he was still in TNA as broken Matt Hardy. So it's like, because I was trying to be people that had parallels. Like I faced was it Steve Blackman? I think I faced Steve Blackman as Ken Shamrock because I wanted to build Steve Blackman up as this like dangerous force to be reckoned with. So I was like, dangerous. I'm going to be the world's most dangerous man, and Steve Blackman is going to break his arm after the match.
I remember that. I actually do remember.
Because I wrote that match.
Right.
So I wrote, like, I knew I was writing that match. So I wrote the character, so I picked the character so I would have the right ending to the match in mind to put Blackman maximum over.
Right.
So I picked Ken Shamrock because, number 1, I fucking love his theme song. Number 2, I've always been a Shamrock mark from growing up. And 3, that's just a badass visual. The baddest man on the world's most dangerous man getting his arm broken by Steve Blackman like it's nothing. Yeah, that's building him up to be a big damn deal.
Absolutely. Well,
And then
plus,
I had
like,
the
you never
Jarrett and
see,
ODB match.
well, you never see people like Shamrock and efeds either.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. And then I had the Jarrett and ODB, and that was just me having fun. And then I had Broken Matt, and I brought Owen back as this like, because he had disappeared for a while. So I was like, maybe he's healed. Maybe his concussion stuff, and because it was never stated, but always implied that like the fall was what caused his head issues
Mm-hmm.
and caused him to always be on as like a psychopath. So it was like one of those things where like, well, he's had some time off. He's seen, like, modern medicine's progressed to a point where like doctors can help him treat his symptoms and things like that. So it was like one of those things where it was like, I'm just gonna bring him back as like a determined baby face to make up for his past. And that sunk like the Titanic. So I was like, oh no, what do I do? What do I do? And then I was like, well, I can always just bring back the psychopath, but keep the baby face and start to turn the baby face more, not psycho, but more willing to delve into those tendencies.
Yeah, kind
So
of
then,
like the.
so the pink was like the calculated, like, I know the demon I have in me and I'm going to use it as a scalpel. And then ever so often, I'm just going to let it loose and just let it be a chainsaw sort of deal.
Right.
And so, yeah, Owen wasn't supposed to come back for real, but I wrote that one. I was like, I want to keep doing this again. And so it happened.
Well, when it's interesting that you bring that up, and it also makes it like more interesting that me and you were talking right now, is because like when Danny was like, because well, that's something else that will like put it into perspective, just like how much the Fed has grown in just like the 6 or 7 months that I've been back. He's like, hey Dres, we got like 12 active people at the moment. He's like, he said, I know you've been thinking of coming back for a while. He's like, could you come back and give us like another active guy? He's like, you don't even have to do like a super competitive run, like before. You could do kind of what Swedish just got done doing and just kind of do like a one-off, stuff like here and there, just to kind of like put people over. And as this kind of like, well, no, if I come back, I want to be competitive. And that's what happened. I came back.
And yeah, I was the opposite, where I asked to come back non-competitive, and then all of a sudden I was like, I want to be competitive again. Because you just get into it and you're like, you find the character that you like and you're like, I like this, I'm gonna do this. So we have been going for 2 hours and I still have some more questions I want to ask you.
Well, I mean, I'm fine talking. I don't know that people are going to keep listening,
but I mean, they stuck it out for the last one. I really enjoyed it. So I don't read too many full matches anymore. I'm gonna be honest.
Okay, sure.
It's a cardinal sin. I know. I love all the writers. I love all the effort. There are, it's just time is fleeting anymore for me. I spend more time sleeping than awake anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I'll read as many promos as I can. I'll read as much of matches as I can. Like I'll try to like, I'll read around like pinfall things to sort of see like what built up to it.
Mm-hmm.
And like I'll read the commentary that people leave in there, like what the commentators are saying, to see if there's any like big moment that I need to go back and reread. Like,
yeah,
oh, okay. Like, if I'm in a match, I'll go back and reread the matches from the previous week. Like, I will eventually read matches. It's just one of those things. Like when I read a show, I'm more like, I'm gonna read the promos. I'm gonna read fully the match that I might be in, skim through the rest, and then as the week goes on, like if I have time, I'm like, man, people are really talking about this match. Let me go back and reread it. So, King of the Ring, you wrote the street fight.
Yep.
Involving myself, Cran, and Semi, whatever. However it's going to be pronounced.
And George.
George, yeah, and George. I loved it. Dear Lord, did I love that match. Holy crap. Number one, how did you know that bringing Dave Grohl in was the perfect thing to do? Because I didn't ask you to do that. I didn't tell you to do that. You just did it, and I loved it. And I was like, this is perfect.
Well, I almost steered the conversation in this direction earlier when you were talking about. I'm glad I didn't, because we covered a lot of good ground. I was like, well, no, we'll talk about the street fight later. But you were talking about, like, hey, no, when they face Jacobs and when they face Bryan, like, those two are the heels. Like, you're going to be the baby face. Like, at best, you're going to be the tweener. But no, like, Bryan's the heel. And then I remember.
Check my pulse. Am I still the best? Yes, I am.
Yes, I am. I'll check again in a few minutes. Maybe that's some jumping jacks or something. Still the best. But no, that reminded, when you were talking about that reminded me of that line of commentary that I wrote in the street fight. That's just like, and I put that in just for you because I remembered you saying, you said it on the podcast with Cran. Actually, it's just like, and you've said it in the Discord. Like, no, I am the heel. I am the heeliest heel that has ever healed.
I am the heel. I am embracing this role because, like, when I was Edge, I was like, yeah, I'm like a conniving heel, but like, there could, there's always someone worse. But like, no, I am the worst now.
Yeah. So I remembered that, and I put in that bit of commentary for you. But so it's like, it's only Daniel Bryan. I think Corey Graves said, but it's like only Daniel Bryan could make Dave Grohl heel.
Could turn Dave Grohl heel. I read that. I was like, yes.
There's two ways that I came up with it. Because the Cage of Death, I was like, okay. I had Zandig come out for that because it's just like, hey, his CZW history. Also, he's an internet darling, and
he's been involved in like every single Cage of Death match in real life, I think.
Right, and
so plus, it sort of keeps that real life kayfabe alive too.
Yeah. Plus, it's like, well, the guys are gonna pop for this, so
Oh yeah, I saw Zandig, and I was losing my mind. I was yelling Jesus in real life.
So I was like, well, I'm going to kind of try to keep it in the same vein, kind of like the continuity thing. So I'm going to throw somebody in here. What can I do? Oh, hey, yeah, okay, yeah, Foo Fighters kind of sort of sings Bryan's theme.
To a degree. Kind
of. So yeah, but then I started thinking about that. I was just like, well, how would a live performance of that, meme video or whatever you want to call it, like, how would that sound? Then it's just like, I was like, that would sound horrible. Wait a second, that would sound horrible.
Yes. Oh my! I also like how you tweaked it, where you had Dave Grohl just going, Daniel Bryan's the best. I'm like, yes, this is it.
Because I actually heard it. I was just like, well, I was actually thinking, like, okay, because I've heard it before, like way before, like I've heard it before, just the best, and I love the actual song, so that helps. And so I imagine, I'm like, just him standing there, and I'm trying to visualize how it would sound and look, and just the best, and it's like, wait a second, no, we got to make this special. So I was actually singing it to myself, like, well, how would that sound? It's just like, Daniel Bryan's the best. And I was like, okay, yeah, I've got to put that in there. And I could think of, it's like, man, what would it be like to sit in that audience, not knowing, maybe this is somebody that, like, is just kind of like a casual UWF fan, or maybe they just don't know a whole lot about Daniel Bryan. So it's kind of like somebody in the club, like, okay, where's the drop at? Where's the drop? Is he just going to keep singing the best? Like, I know there's other lyrics to this song. This is horrible. So, some of those people that are booing Dave Grohl, is doing so because it's just like, there's more than two words to that song. The rest of the song. Yeah.
They want to hear of you, but you don't get of you. You only get the best.
You don't get of you. You get of me. Me.
Oh my God. Oh my God, you brought it fully back to Hoove Daniel Bryan because he turned yes into me.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. No, that was amazing to bring in Dave Grohl for that. And like, I'm a sucker for special pay-per-view entrances. I did one for Owen, whereas one of those things where like I was toying with like I would have him mostly as like the pink sort of like calculated evil.
Yeah.
And like every so often he would have that little like break where like his migraine would act up and like he'd be covering his eye because the light was hurting him, and that's what was bringing the psychopath out. Like that was like
that was good stuff.
The realistic reasoning for that was like all of a sudden like he would have like that concussion would flare up, and like so he would get sensitive to bright lights in the one eye, and like that's what would like bringing it out.
That's one regret I have, is because for the Monsters Ball, or Fosher's Ball as is more appropriate, did a special entrance for that because everybody did a special entrance, and it's just like that Clash of Champions, whatever. I should have done a special entrance for that,
yeah,
and like King of the Ring final. So it's just like I wish I would have kept with that, and I've at least toyed with the idea, but for some reason I've just always kind of like, no, we'll just stick with that or whatever. But no, another thing, when I decided like, okay, Dave Grohl is going to make a cameo, but like as soon as I made that decision, the next thought was like, Triple H is going to hit him somehow. Like, I don't want to write it. I was like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to write it. I love the Foo Fighters. I love Dave Grohl, but he's here as a representative of Daniel Bryan, and who hates Daniel Bryan more than Triple H? Nobody. So yeah, Dave Grohl is going to eat a pedigree, or he's going to get hit with a sledgehammer or something like that. He's like Owen Steen in the Cage of Death. He's just a casualty,
Yeah. No, I think you played that like perfectly. Like whenever you do something special like that, especially with like a heel, there's always like okay, how is this gonna bite them in the ass?
Right.
Like there's always that caveat. Speaking of special entrances on your behalf, though, I'm gonna throw an idea out there for you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the axe is coming into play a lot lately.
Yes.
The King of the Ring crown, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here's a promo idea for you.
Okay.
I can strike this from the video if you like this. Melt down the crown into an axe hand, like an axe head, and start using
that's awesome.
There you go.
That's very cool. Melt the crown.
Because I was having the idea of like Cody Rhodes melting down the crown into the ring for the whole Kiss the Ring thing, King of the Ring, and I was like, oh man, I literally just had this idea. I was like, what if Vinny melted the crown into a new axe head?
That's pretty awesome, actually.
I might have to strike this entire part from the podcast and just have a weird break of silence, or just overlay the best over this part. I don't know. I'll actually have to edit this one now.
I don't know, because I don't know.
Or we could just leave it in and just let the people that listen to it get a little inside scoop.
There you go.
Will you do it? Will you not do it? Have I written a Larry Sweeney promo yet? You don't know.
I don't know.
No one knows.
Only Foch knows.
Only Foch knows. Because that's how I would do it. I wouldn't just post it. I would just send it to him.
Right.
And then he would post it. Someone would figure it out. I don't think I could do Sweeney yet. I think I'm close. I might have been dabbling in it in my off time.
Right. So you like the special entrance though?
I loved it. It hit all the right notes for me. It made sense for the character, and it made sense in the scope of the match because you incorporated it back in. For me, special entrances, like, I feel like they should mean something. Too many times, like, a special entrance in WWE today means they're losing. I don't necessarily like that. I just want it to play a factor in either the mindset of the competitor or a factor in the match itself.
Right.
Like, if you have Rey Mysterio coming out dressed like a superhero, I want him, like, going at 150% of what he usually does. I want to see him hitting those ropes harder. I want to see him flying high. Like, that's like the sort of mentality I want to see. Like, if you're doing a special entrance, I want that to either bring out the best of your best or play a factor in your match.
Yeah, it's just like, pretty much it's like write out the gimmick. Like, don't come out here just looking the part, just do something with it.
Like, I used the special entrance for Owen to basically signify, like, oh, you're not getting calculated Owen with a dash of crazy. You're getting full crazy. Because this was WrestleMania. And I did the special, I had the priest reading the Bible upside down, the whole opening to the Number of the Beast song, and then all of a sudden Owen's old theme starts playing, and it's like, oh yeah, you're getting the evil one.
Oh yeah,
this like I wanted to set that stage, and so like the entrance itself didn't really play a factor in the match. It played a factor in the mindset. It was like, hey, you're not getting the Owen that was trash talking. You're getting the Owen that is gonna cut down your spine with a pizza cutter and try to rip your spine out.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what he did in that match.
Yeah, this was one of those things that it was just kind of, it was different from the Cage of Death, because like when that was announced, Danny came to me. He's like, "You're pretty good at this, so you want to write it?" Yeah, okay. Here's the finish. Foch wants to put Gert over, so can you do that? Yeah, I can do that. And he didn't tell me how. He didn't tell me anything else. And Foch gave me one spot. He said, nobody has kicked out of the Steenalizer before, I don't think. He said, so if you could have Jacobs kick out of that, he's like, that's the only thing I'm going to suggest. He said, if you don't want to use it, that's cool. I just thought it would be a cool spot. I was like, okay, cool. I said, then I made a joke or something like that. It's just like, well, like save the rest of your spots for like the Monsters Ball or whatever. And I'm not going to give you any suggestions because I don't want you stealing my spots, just something like that. But this time was different though, because like the match hadn't even been announced yet, Well, obviously because the Skrull wasn't even part of it yet, but it's just like, ooh, if they're going to have an extreme stipulation, I would like to write it. And then I found out it was a triple threat, and I was like, Danny, can I write it? Has anybody taken it? Yeah. He's like, yeah, sure, man, you can do it. And then he told me the swerve, this is like, well,
the 0 hour swerve that came out of nowhere. I was at work when I came up with the idea. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the swerve. The swerve being Daniel Bryan joining Skrull, which is very subtle in the match itself, which is sort of what I wanted.
Yeah, well, that's
which you did a great job doing.
Well, he told me that, and this is not to step on you at all. Just kind of, I'll let you. Bleh. I'm going to say my little part, then we're just going to let you run with your explanation. In other words, all I was told was like, hey, did Swedish tell you? No, he didn't. Oh, okay. Well, here's what's going to happen. He wants to join Villain Enterprises. So if you could have Skrull pin Brian with like that little float over pin thing or whatever. And I was like, I don't know what he's talking about really. So that's why it was a roll up instead of a float over. But
no, the roll up was perfectly. I envisioned like a roll up.
Okay, cool.
So that was
and then
A-okay in my book.
Well, he said on Revolution it's going to be explained. So I'm like, oh, okay, so it's not a partnership yet.
It was, but it also wasn't.
Yeah, it was what it was. It was, but it wasn't, and that's how I saw it. And that's why I went about the psychology of the match. Well, if what psychology you can get from a crazy street fight,
a triple threat street fight.
Yeah. So that's why I wrote it. That's why it was subtle, though. That's why you still had Brian and Skrull fighting each other just as much as Skrull and Triple H, Brian and Triple
H. In my head, like we were joining forces. However, there was a lot of animosity that was built up leading to the match, so it was sort of like getting in a relationship, and it's just like, okay, so for this first week it'll be like open, we'll just get out all this like weird crazy stuff, and then relationship. It was like, all right, we've got all this pent up aggression against each other, we're gonna have this match, we're gonna have it out. After this, moving forward, everything's all like peaches and cream.
Okay, so but how did the swerve come about? You said you were at work.
So I was at work. I had already read the show, and I had already read some of the comments from when I did what Regal promo. Oh no, it was the attacking, because I was just coming back because I was on a little mini hiatus because work was killing me, and I was just coming back, and Danny was like, "Do you still want the Triple H match?" I was like, "Yes, I still want the Triple H match." He's like, "Okay, well, Skrull's in the mix now because we were calling audibles just in case you weren't coming back in time." I was like, "Great, no, that's awesome. Triple threat works because then we can still build from there, build up somebody new as well." Like, I love working with other people. I love trying to build other people up with us. Like, it'll only help him in the long run. Like, being a part of like another feud, like an established feud with two established guys, he can get a good rub from that, you know. So I was all for it, and then I was like, okay, so I want to do a big beatdown angle where it sort of goes in turns, where like I attack Skrull out of nowhere for him attacking me on the ramp that one time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I want Triple H to then attack me to make up for me attacking him at the gym some weeks ago. And then I want Skrull to come back into it and beat up Triple H, just because everyone hates each other, and I wanted us to all get pulled away from each other.
Right.
And that's what I envision. And George Semi wrote basically the whole damn thing on his own because Cran and I were taking too long. And so Cran and I were just reading it back, was like, okay, so Cran rewrote a lot of his section because Cran knew what he wanted to do for the Triple H versus Bryan beatdown, which I was cool with. I kept most of what he wrote for Bryan attacking Skrull the same. I just tweaked one thing with him going through the vending machine.
Yeah.
And because Triple H needed to get the Coke out of the vending machine. That was the whole reason.
What's he gonna do? Put his money in there? No.
Yeah, exactly. No. Like the whole gimmick was Triple H was basically just watching us beat the hell out of each other. He sees the Coke, gets the Coke, does the product placement. Because Cran and I were bouncing ideas off each other, and we were like, yeah, he's gonna like. So I was like, I want to attack Skrull, throw him through a vending machine, then Triple H shows up and beats up Bryan. Maybe like he grabs something out of the machine and starts eating it, and Cran's like, I'm going to drink a Coke, I'm going to smash it over your head. I'm like, perfect, love it.
Share a Coke with the game.
Oh, man. So we do that angle. Semi rates pretty much the whole thing. I tweaked just the beginning and the end. And I tweaked the beginning because I was like, man, I need a reason to get Nigel away from Skrull so Bryan can attack. So I was like, I'm going to have Regal pretend like he's got a business proposition for Nigel to lure him away. So Nigel can't stop any of this from happening. And Bryan comes out of nowhere and attacks Skrull. And then Brandon Chase read that and during his rundown, because like the next promo was like Jericho's pay-per-view prediction, which I love.
Yeah.
I love that promo. It's always great. It's always funny. It's a good mix of comedy and like actual predictions.
Yeah.
I've got a burp. Oh, excuse me. I read that, and he was like, "Did I call Bill Regal joining the Brits in the promo before I even say it?" And I'm like, that's an interesting idea. But what if it was Bryan joining the Brits instead of Regal? Because I need Regal to go away.
Right.
And so
I get ideas from people like that sometimes, but not
to the extent that I did right here, because I read that at night, and then I went to work, and then I was at work, and I was in the produce walk-in cooler in the back room because I was filling produce out on the sales floor, because that's what I do. I run a grocery store, basically. I run the food department of my Target. So I was in the back looking at bagged salads, checking expiration dates to see what I needed to take out and put on the shelf. And I had my phone up because I was too busy like thinking. I was like, I need to calm down. I had too much on my brain. So I was rereading comments, and I reread that one. I was like, it should be Bryan. He won't expect that. No one will expect that. I don't expect that.
I wasn't
Bryan joining
that.
Nigel. And I was like, I love it. Let me ask Semi. I told Semi, and he's like, I'm so hyped. He was like, I'm so hyped for this. I'm like, awesome. Let me ask Danny. Hey, Danny, can I do this? Yeah, sure. Awesome. Let me tell Cran. Hey, Cran, I'm doing this. sure, great. I'm like, cool. Everyone's on board. So like I'm sending messages to all these people like, here's what the segment on Revolution is gonna be. Here's how I envision the match going. I'm leaving choice things out for different people. Like I'm not telling some things because I still want like the match result to be a surprise. Like
Yeah.
Because I think I told you I didn't want to get the pin.
Yeah.
Like if I was supposed to win that match, I wanted Skrull to get the pin.
Right. And that's what that's another thing that was cool. Like, not only did I get to help in a match writing capacity, not only did, it get to be pretty much my bread and butter, and I got to write, something that's just like, well, I can't give them catch can technical classic or anything like that. But
you can have Daniel Bryan biting Triple H's thigh, and I'm gonna mark out for it.
Yeah, it's just like I can, hey, if you take the training wheels off and you want people to hit each other with weapons and all that stuff, I can do that. Okay, cool, I can do that. Okay, but now I've kind of sort of had a small hand in kind of giving young guys a rub now, because it's kind of like like I said, Cage of Death, it's like, hey, Gert's going over. Oh, cool, I can write that. And then with this one, it's like, hey, Simi's going over. Okay, cool, that's cool. That was another reason that it's cool to be a part of writing those matches, because obviously I didn't make the call, I was just told the finish, but it's just like, hey, I get to write this, and I get to kind of sort of figure out how we get there. So
and to make people look good with it too. Like I remember writing a SummerSlam match for Miz and Morrison against Killa's Ryback before his Ryback went on the mega tear that he went on.
Mm-hmm.
And Miz and Morrison retained, but it was like one of those things where I think the direction SBS gave me was Miz and Morrison retain, but make it reasonable for Ryback to get another match. Mm-hmm. And so I went with the whole, I think Miz pinned Axel, but Axel's feet were under the rope and the ref didn't see it.
Mm-hmm.
So like I like getting directions like that, or even if I don't get directions like that, I'm always gonna try to make everyone, like, unless like they no show, I'm gonna try to make everyone look good. Even in my trash talks, my goal is to make other people like look like I want to win, but I don't want it to be a blowout. I want people to keep up.
Right.
Like I want people to read what I'm writing and pick out the ammo I'm giving them, because I leave bullets in my promos for people to grab and use.
I think to a degree everybody kind of does that. At least the vets do.
Yeah. Sometimes it's like as like a double trap. Like I want you to focus on this because I have like 8 different lines to go from here.
Now see, AK was really good at that. Like because I fell for it one time, and then he said in his next trash talk, he's like, I was hoping. He's like, I knew you were gonna say that. I'm like, dang it, man. It's like, how are you? Because I've never been that elaborate that I can just set traps. Like, oh, I know what he's gonna say. He needs to respond to this so that I can hit him with that or whatever. But
yeah.
Yeah.
So, going back to the street fight just a little bit more. How do you come up with like spots for a match like that?
Well, it's all very train of thought, actually. When I get a match assignment, whether I requested it or it's requested of me, I tell myself like, oh, okay, well, the show's in a few weeks, I got time, but I also have a lot of personal life things, kids and work and all that stuff, and so it usually almost ends up like, okay, hey, the day before the show or the day of the show, I'm sitting down and I write it in one sitting, just bang the whole thing up. And the best way I can think of to tell you that I think of spots is kind of, I randomly think of things, and it's just kind of like, okay, well, how do we get there? Kind of like the crock pot or whatever. It's kind of like, Okay, well, that'd be fun. Like I've done some of that stuff I've done before, like the catering brawl and like the parking lot, fighting on the steps of the arena and the merchandise table and stuff like that.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Speaking of the merchandise table, the second thing I popped for, the Your Enlightened Saviors appearance of the cosplayers.
Yes.
Oh my god! I wasn't around for that, and I got that reference. You can tell how excited I am when I read that. I was like, "That guy's wearing a bathrobe. Is he supposed to be Sandow? Why is that guy? That guy's Wyatt. Oh my god! Oh my god!" Like I was freaking out when I read that.
That was probably the most random thing I thought of too. I was just like, how many references can I throw in that thing? Because I wasn't even like, none of that was backhanded except for the things that were obviously backhanded.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like,
no, it does make sense.
That wasn't a shot at Ray. That wasn't a shot at Sam. That wasn't even like a shot at like Yes either. It's just kind of like, hey, you remember that?
It was just a callback. It was just a pure callback. Like, hey, this was a thing.
Except for but yeah, that was like the most random thing. I'm like, okay, this guy's Sandow, this guy's Wyatt.
And the vacuum cleaner was Brian.
It's just like, well, Brian's already in the match, so what can I do? A vacuum. Because people that see this, that don't think that's the dumbest thing I've ever read, are going to be like, ha, he's a Hoover.
Oh my god, I didn't even think about that. Oh my god.
And then it's just like,
how did I connect those dots? No. Oh my god, that's even better.
And I didn't intend it this way. The next thing I would say, I didn't intend it this way, but if you wanted to read into it further, it'd be like, oh, he's a vacuum cleaner because he sucks. Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, oh, he's a vacuum cleaner because Daniel Bryan sucks. That's where I went with it. No. And I got a good chuckle. Oh man, the Hoover thing. Oh my god.
He's a Hoover. Ha ha ha. And then of course the name tag in the office or whatever. It's just like, what? Whose office is that? Mike's. Or I can't remember what name I put on there. It's just like, well, if that's the case, he hasn't worked here in quite a while,
Yeah, I love that one too. That's why I like that match so much, because like it referenced the past enough and not necessarily throwaway lines where like people like me and like Cran and like Dan, like I don't know if Danny like enjoyed some of that stuff, but like we would get those references and that would add to like the experience of the match. But you don't need to know that stuff to understand the match that's happening.
Exactly. And so some of that stuff is just experience where I've wrote stuff like that before. And things it's just like I randomly think of. It's just like, well, I think it's funny. Other people might not think it's funny, but I'm going to put it in there anyway. Why not? And I was like, well, what would Triple H do here? He's going to pedigree the
vacuum
He's going to pedigree a vacuum cleaner because it's because of the in joke, because it's like, of course I'm going to pedigree you in this match, but also it's just kind of like it drives home the thing is, Triple H hates anything that even remotely resembles Daniel Bryan. That's why Dave Grohl ate it. That's why. So yeah, and this little vacuum cleaner is going to eat it too. Poor vacuum cleaner. But
pour one out. Pour out a cup of orange juice for your boy vacuum cleaner.
He's gonna show up on UCFW. He's gonna join the Lords of Tech. He's
so gonna be on UCFW now. Oh my god. Either I'm gonna do it or Foch is just gonna make it happen, because he's gonna listen to this. He's gonna be like, yes, yep, this is a thing. Daniel Bryan, the vacuum cleaner.
But also, there's it may have been you that said it. I don't know. Somebody said that matches like that, when I see stuff that makes me cringe, I know it's good.
It's me. That's me. That's a total me line, because I hate death matches.
Yeah.
I don't. They're not for me. They just aren't. I get it. Right. I understand the level of, honestly, artistry that goes into them to craft spots like that, and just like that sort of like gut visceral, like these two guys are trying to kill each other reaction. Like I get it.
Mm-hmm.
I watch wrestling for different reasons, but more power to you if yours. Like I'm going to a GCW show, SummerSlam weekend. I'm gonna watch Nick Gage face Meng, Haku.
Right.
I'm probably gonna watch a live murder.
Right.
And I'm probably gonna pop for it. So like, but like if I cringe, I know it's like a good spot. Like,
yeah, but that's the best way I can answer your question. Is it's just a combination of random things I think of, things that have worked in the past, things that I think are funny that should go in there, things that I think the other people are going to like, whether they're new or they've been fetting with me for a long time. Then other stuff is just like, oh, that's a crazy spot, that's violent, that's gruesome, like that curb stomp with the stapler in his mouth or whatever. That made me cringe. I'm like, I was like, that is just nasty to visualize.
One spot I go back to all the time, I think it was a Sami Callihan match when Foch had him. It was a broken light tube being stabbed into his forehead and ground in there. It still turns my stomach.
I don't remember that, but I remember a few spots that I've read over the years, like, because I remember Soup's comment on it. It was some match, but anyway, it was, it might have been a match that involved the TIOC actually, because
Tire Iron Original Crew.
Exactly, because it happened to Brody Lee. His opponent like cast the. It might have been the Steen and Ambrose, or Steen. It was Steen EC3, because I was bringing back people from both of their past, and Brody Lee made an appearance.
I remember that match.
Something happened, like the fishing pole got involved and that got cast, and Brody Lee got hooked in the corner of his mouth, like hooked in the lip.
I think I remember that.
Yeah, the hook was pulled loose. So stuff like that. But I've gotten to write all kinds of crazy stuff, like things spilling out into a parking lot and somebody gets put through the windshield of the car, and people get thrown into like the side view mirrors and they get whipped with the windshield wipers. And I've even done spots that they brawl, like they open the door, they brawl into the car itself, somebody like unsets the parking brake and the car goes rolling with them inside of it. And it's all kinds of fun stuff.
Always. And I love asking people about like how they get inspiration for things. Like matches are always the easiest one, because like if you're asking for inspiration for a character, you can get very like psychological, it can get very like methodical, and like it's fun, but it's not as like easily relatable fun as like, hey, how'd you come up with this dumb spot? Like, oh well, I was watching like a fishing show, and like, and I was like, man, it'd be cool if this guy, like things like that.
Yeah, no, well, that's another thing I think of, is it's kind of like, I'll think of a spot or two, or I'll just think of it's just like, what's like the most random off the wall weapon I can think of, it's just like, let's do something with a cactus, because I introduced that into, it was back when I was writing for the hardcore division. It was when Chase's AJ Styles was in the hardcore division, and it was like a multi-man, some kind of hardcore match, and something happened that
was this retarded AJ Styles?
I don't think so. I don't think so, but
that in the same vein as gay Dolph Ziggler, retarded AJ Styles was the thing. Funny enough, it was still Chase. It wasn't somebody else.
I'm sorry, you cut out. What did you say?
Oh, did I cut out? No, I was just saying that in the same vein as like gay Dolph Ziggler, retarded AJ Styles was a thing, and it was still Chase.
Absolutely. But the cactus got introduced, and somehow like with the cactus needles, AJ, the letters A and J got spelled out on somebody's body. Then
that's awesome.
And then when I was writing for the hardcore division with Sam's Grado and Cairns's Vampiro and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The matches where like people's throats got like Yeah, like dug around in and stuff like that. Yeah.
That was right around when Owen was coming into the division too, because
Well,
Grado
that
was
was like
champion as I was coming back.
well, that was the that was the perfect roster for me to do something sick with that division because you had Abyss, you had the Holy Trinity or the Holy Triad.
No, it wasn't just Abyss. It was Decay, because it was Cran with Decay, I think.
Oh no, I was talking about Tap Out's Abyss.
Oh, okay. Was that?
Yeah, you had Tap Out's Abyss. You were coming back. You had Derek coming back as Solomon Crow. You had Cairns that had the unholy Trinity or the unholy Triad, something like that. It was
Vampiro,
Bray Wyatt, Vampiro, and Gangrel, and then I think the way that somebody was going to get
Steve Blackman as Dead Prez Steve Blackman.
That's it. Yeah, Dead Prez Steve Blackman, and somebody was going to get added to Cairns' stable because I had an idea and I couldn't remember if it was a different trash talker or if he was going to add a fourth character to it. But I remember thinking of something. I'm like, okay, what's a cool word for a 4-person stable? The triumvirate. You know, so it was going to go from the unholy trio to or Trinity or whatever to the unholy triumvirate, and that just
doesn't that still mean 3?
No, I think triumvirate was 4.
I think triumvirate is still 3 because tri is 3.
Well, yeah,
it's still a cool word. I like the word.
Oh no, you're right. I just thought, well, okay, then I might be remembering my definition incorrectly, but anyway. Okay, then maybe triumvirate was the word when it was 3, and I was trying to think of something cool for 4. Okay, anyway, triumvirate was in there somewhere.
It's a cool word. That's the word of the day right there. Triumvirate. I remember those rumblings too about Cairns'. We'll just have to ask him who he was going to add.
Yeah, I don't remember because I remember.
Because I think it was another trash talker.
No, but what you're thinking of with Cran's Decay, though.
Oh my God, was it going to be me?
Yep, that's it. Okay, then Owen was going to be the 4th guy.
It was going to be me.
Owen was going to be the 4th guy because that might have been one of those things that is just kind of like, hey, they don't want me on SmackDown. I'm like, why not? I'll take you. Like, I love the Owen character, so like, hey, let's do that. And okay, you were going to be the 4th guy, and so for some reason.
I don't think it just like worked out or something. I think Cairns was like leaving.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, it didn't pan out for some reason. But no, Cran's Decay was around when I was the Wyatt family because we had I think we got a couple pay-per-views out of that feud, actually.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And his, I'm glad you reminded me of that too, though, because his Decay was really, really good.
Because I think I fought his Decay as Owen as well. I think that's what led me getting into the hardcore scene.
Yeah, that was
my hardcore title run as Owen.
Yeah, well, that was the tag division at the time. I think you had, I think it was the Young Bucks, the Usos, Decay, the Wyatt family.
Oh shit! I think I faced his Decay as Miz and Morrison.
What is it?
I think I faced his Decay as Foch's Miz and Morrison.
Okay, you're kind of getting.
Oh, sorry.
It's kind of chopping you up again.
I might be a little bit too far away. I was facing. I might have been one of my gimmick matches where I was the mystery gimmick facing off against Decay as Miz and Morrison.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, I do remember that now.
Because I think it was one of those things where, like, I wanted to save Miz and Morrison for facing the Young Bucks, but it was Cran. I was like, Cran's gonna love this. and then if I had kept going with the mystery gimmick, I asked Danny if I could eventually face the Young Bucks. Maybe I didn't ask him, but I was eventually going to ask to face the Young Bucks, and I was gonna bust out Foch's American Dolphins against them.
Yeah.
But I was asking Cran to try to research Foch's American Dolphins because they had no UWF material at all. And so I needed to find like their UCW stuff to get their cadences down and their styles.
Well, yeah, you're right. I was gonna say no, it was UWF, but no, you're right. It was UCW. It was the
he brought them in towards the tail end of Warzone as the Mex American Dolphins for some battle royale thing.
Okay.
It was London Kendrick and El Generico speaking Spanish.
Okay. Yeah. But yeah, I've been around for that reminds me of how many like ups and downs I've been around for the tag division, because I can remember like when it was so red hot that we pitched and had something going on that it's just like, well, why don't we make these it was an interbrand tournament for the tag team championships. I think it was gonna be like one belt for like the 3 or 4 brands we had going on at the time. And of course the tournament fell apart because, egos got in the way, and it's just like, well, you know what? No, we're going to put over EOR's team, or we're going to put over SBS's team, stuff like that happened all the time,
Yeah.
Like every time you would try to do something like in the future or whatever, it's just, if something happened in this reboot that was interbrand, that it's going to be cordial and it's going to be like it is right now with one brand. Everybody's going to get a fair shake and stuff like that. But the way it was back in the day, it was just like so competitive. It's just like Stone Cold on Raw was feuding with maybe like Ted DiBiase on SmackDown, Ted DiBiase Jr. So anyway, to build that feud, like Stone Cold showed up on anyway, whatever. I don't. Stone Cold showed up on the rival show. I think it was SmackDown. I think he was on Raw and showed up on SmackDown, and got beat up. They just like destroyed him. And EOR's like logic was, it's just like, whoa, what? Just Stone Cold beats up everybody and just gives everybody a stunner or whatever. So it's like, not on my brand. It's not going to happen on my show. It's just like, why are we going to put over your guy on our show? It's just like, oh,
yeah,
okay, yeah.
And that's just how like it was. Like, I remember when we had 2 tag titles and 3 brands. So we had Raw, SmackDown, and Thunder. This was like when I first started, and my first pay-per-view match was for the Raw tag titles. It was a triple cage match. It was not a triple cage; it was a triple threat cage match. I'm sorry, not a Ready to Rumble triple cage.
Right.
That would have been awesome. But it was Miz and Morrison by Foch, Chase's Varsity Squad. I've talked about this before. I will always talk about I don't have much history of like note to go over, so like it's sort of like beating dead horses.
Right.
That's the tagline of this podcast, is beating dead horses. And it was a triple threat cage match, and Miz and Morrison retained. And then there was a SmackDown tag title match, which got no-showed by both teams, and I was basically given the titles because I was second place in the Raw tag title match. And they were like, screw these guys who didn't show up. Let's give it to somebody who's been showing up week after week. And then what threw me off, like you can see the politics at play at this, is that I stayed on Raw with the other 2 brands' tag titles.
Right.
So, like, I was still getting booked on Raw matches, and I had to do, like, segments on Thunder, and, like, it just, like, it felt wrong. Like, I felt like I should have either just been traded to the other show, so it felt like I was a transitional champion. Like, okay, when's the other shoe gonna drop? Like, who am I dropping these titles to? Like, right. I'm on Raw, SBS isn't letting go of me from Raw, like, at all.
Mm-hmm.
But I have the other tag titles. SBS isn't. He's also not letting Miz and Morrison go. So something's got to give. If neither team is leaving, one of these titles is. Oh, Miz and Morrison are only defending against Raw teams. Well, I guess I'm the odd one out, and I'm going to lose these titles to somebody not on Raw. So I forget who it ended up being. I had like one pay-per-view match where it was like one team from SmackDown and one team from Thunder, and one of the teams like no showed, so the champs retained. And then they're like, screw it, someone's beating him for the titles, put him up against 4 Thunder teams. One of them's gonna beat him, and it ended up being the Cartel. Can't be mad about that. It was Ray. It was Homicide and Hernandez, right? No. It wasn't. Why do I always get Chase's characters confused with Ray's? It was Hunico and Camacho.
Yeah.
God, I'm the worst. I keep doing it, and I know I'm doing it. So it was Hunico and Camacho, and like Jimmy Uso was in that match as the Usos, and there were 2 other teams that I can't remember for the life of me. But it was one of those matches where it's just like, I sort of knew one of those teams was going to beat me. And we all obviously knew which of those teams was going to beat me. The way they wrote the match, though, I actually liked how they wrote the match. We had a match leading up to the show where, because it was like 5 teams, and it was going to be like a 4 teams elimination scramble match. So only 4 teams were going to start, and there was going to be a 5th team that would enter the match later. It ended up being the Usos. The Usos won a 5-man singles match on Thunder against me and Ray. Whew! That's a thing. That's a thing that happened, and like I was cool with that because I was like, oh yeah, they get a big win because they're probably not going to win at the pay-per-view. Let's be fair. And the way they booked the match was Edge and Christian eliminated every other team except Hunico and Camacho, like, outsmarted them and beat them. Like they beat them up on the outside. Maybe there was like a barricade spot or like a concrete spot. I can't remember exactly what it was, but like they got the best of them and got the pin 1, 2, 3. So Edge and Christian eliminated everybody else, and then all of a sudden Hunico and Camacho win the titles. So like I liked how they wrote the match. It was like, yep, Edge and Christian did everything they could, but they lost out in the end, and that's sort of what that reign felt like. Like I could keep playing as well as I can, but eventually the other shoe's gonna drop, and Thunder's gonna want their titles back.
Yeah.
And that's how the politics were in those days, and there was like nothing I could do. And it's just like one of those things like, well, I'm just gonna ride this out until they decide they want their titles back. Either trade me to Thunder or take the titles off me. And I like to take the titles off me. I wasn't going to beat Ray regardless, let's be fair. If I was on Thunder, I was losing those titles to Ray no matter what. Cartel was on fire in those days.
Yeah, pretty much untouchable, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, that's sort of how the politics went. So be grateful about how the UWF is now. Wherein I can just say like, hey, I just want to keep fighting Triple H, and Danny's like, sure.
Yeah, like, hey, that's cool. Yeah. No, it's definitely a lot more relaxed now. And of course, where I was kind of burnt out from the end of things that led to the site shut down and all that stuff. Yeah, I was done. I flirted with a return for a little while, but like every time I went to pull the trigger, I was like, oh, I just can't do it, because you can ask Cran, you can ask Foch. I went to both of them until Danny was finally, as I touched on earlier, like, hey, you want to come back? You don't even have to, like, be competitive or whatever. And it's like, well, no, you'll be competitive. And then it's the searching through all the rosters, and I was just like, well, nobody in WWE really jumps out. Nobody in TNA really jumps out. Like, Vinny Marseglia, who's this guy? And I'm like, oh, well, okay, I can do something with this character. Well, how many promos does he have? Not a whole lot of stuff. Except for, like, if you watch that hype video that Gert put together, like the clip.
I still need to do that. I still need to watch that.
Okay, well, when you watch it, like, the clips that he put in there for, like, the Vinny stuff, that was that was the few things that I looked at when I first picked up the character. Like I said, for the most part, it's just like, well, okay, he doesn't talk a whole lot. He's not really well established. Like, he's been wrestling for a while, and now he's in Ring of Honor. But it's just kind of like, well,
Is he part of the Kingdom?
he is, yeah,
I think I saw him wrestle live.
yeah. Matt Taven,
without even realizing it.
Matt Taven, TK O'Ryan, and Vinny Marseglia. They were the 6-man champions. That they just lost to the Young Bucks and Cody. So,
I gotcha. I think I saw them before that, maybe, because like Ring of Honor did some TV tapings here.
Yeah.
Before Dalton Castle won the title off Cody, like it was during that build.
Oh, okay.
When a War Machine almost killed a fan.
Yeah.
I was at that taping.
Oh, okay. Well, that's cool. Yeah.
So I saw Vinny Marseglia before I knew who Vinny Marseglia was.
Well, I picked him up without really knowing who he was. It's just kind of like, okay, the Horror King. Yeah, I could work with that. And it's
that's an interesting that's always going to be fascinating to me, to pick up a character that you know like nothing about, really just taking a blank slate and just like knowing the broad strokes of the character and just like going at it with your own.
Well, and that's why I brought it up, is because most of the character is just stuff that I've come up with. It's bits and pieces of the original character, but in the beginning I was pretty much just kind of like winging it, and like there's stuff that I've gone back later, and it's just like, oh, okay, the actual Vinny does do that stuff, like where like I remember writing a promo the promos in like the beginning where he would like swing the axe at the camera or something like that when he was done talking. It's just like, oh, Vinny actually does that. I didn't know that, but
nice.
Obviously as time goes on, I've kind of incorporated things from like the real him. Like when he started doing the red balloons thing, I'm like, okay, how can I incorporate that into it? And then it just kind of happened organically, just kind of with everything else. Just like I thought of a way to incorporate it in, and then the always check under the ring, because I get my pictures off of his Twitter and his Instagram. I've got like 5 albums full of pictures, some that I've used, some that I haven't. And,
wow.
Yeah,
that's a good amount of pictures to have right there.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I just Google search everything there on the spot, trying to find good stuff.
It's like 200 some pictures, and when I use them, I label them like, this is the match and the date that I used it. This is the date and the promo that I used it, so that if I ever want to go back and reuse it, like I can, like later, it's just like, okay, when did I use this one?
I used it 6 months ago. No one's gonna remember.
Like, okay,
except Kurt.
February.
Kurt
That's cool. I can work that in. But no, stuff like that, like the always check under the ring. That's why you see like every now and then, like he'll come out from under the ring, like cut up through the mat or stuff like that. So he actually does the under the ring thing. He actually does like the balloons and obviously like all the. I'm playing up like the Pennywise stuff more because he's doing that in real life also. Yeah. Plus, but really it was Foch that kicked that off. Like when he wrote that television championship match, me and Gulak, and he did that spot at the end where he's like, you'll float too. And then like Vinny suplexed him from the turnbuckle to like the outside floor. It's like, oh, that's awesome, man. And then I just started. Then I looked at like the ring gear. Yeah. So that's why I've kind of. So it's evolving and progressing nicely, I think. I mean, I'm still having a lot of fun, and people seem to enjoy what I'm bringing to the table. And it's like, well, I'll tell you what I told Cran. I didn't envision this when I said, I'll come back. I want to be competitive, though. I didn't envision it.
You didn't envision yourself being this competitive.
No, I didn't think.
But life sort of works out that way, doesn't it?
Yeah, I didn't think I was going to get on a hot streak or like a tear or anything like that.
Just really find that groove with this character.
Yeah. So I didn't anticipate it, but I appreciate it. I've enjoyed all of it. I'm having a lot of fun. and hope to continue to have a lot of fun though, because like I said, I've had a lot of tough opponents, a lot of people that I was like, there's no way I'm beating them. And it's usually because of like that line. Like they'll say something like, how in the world am I going to turn this around? You know, like
that bulletproof line, like,
well, like
come back from this.
Crayon had a few that I'm like, okay, I'm not beating his Triple H. There's no way. And then Destructo Disc definitely had a few. I'm like, I was like, man, his Rollins is just like bulletproof. It's one of those things that I had to you go back and reread it, but mostly it's not really any surprise for me to say that Foch's the Tough was probably the most difficulty that I've had up to this point. And I told him that personally. I was like, I just read your first trash talk and I've got nothing. I was like, I cannot think of a response. And so I mean that's the thing that, you know, people might be surprised about, people might not be surprised about, but you know, it's something that I want to be honest about. You know, I still doubt myself. I still have to look for reassurance. You know, I've hit up Crayon along the way. I've hit up Foch along the way, you know, stuff like that. And
need to start hitting me up now.
Yeah, it's just kind of like, man, you know, it's like, I don't think that was very good, and you know, stuff like that. But that's it's just a reason that, you know, I just want to stay true to that nature, and yeah, I just never want to get arrogant. I always want to be humble. I don't want to be cocky or overconfident, and it's because I've been that way in the past, like here and there, but also, you know, like the people, like the vets like you and stuff like that have been around a while, that had to deal with the old guard and had to deal with that or whatever, you know. I don't want to bring that back, even in like the slightest capacity. If somebody could look at something I did or said or something, even if it was a word or something like that, and it's just like, oh man, he's kind of cocky, he's kind of brash, you know.
Yeah.
I don't want to bring that back for the vets that have been doing this for a while, or the vets that recently came back, and I definitely don't want the new guys to have to suffer through that environment and live through that, but outside of like vicariously living it through us retelling it. Like that's the closest I want them to have to get.
And like reading my Brian.
Yeah, that's the closest I want them to get to that, and that's why.
And that's kind of why I brought Brian back the way he did, almost as like a cautionary tale. Like this is I'm not playing Brian, I'm playing Hoove.
Yeah.
That's the best way to describe it.
Absolutely.
I'm playing Daniel Bryan, but I'm playing Hoove and Sabazon.
Yeah, for the most part. And that's just one of those things, man. And that's why you always, that's why I'm just always just so thankful and just so much gratitude to I mean, that is, you know, that is genuine. And that's why, because I want everybody to have fun. I want everybody to enjoy this. And improve too. Improve too. Absolutely, improve, and you know, enjoy everybody to enjoy their own, you know, type of success, and never get discouraged and give up if things don't go their way. It's just like, hey, it's okay, you know, you lose sometimes. You just we could tweak this, we could get better, you know, and
like that's gonna be like a big thing with my partnership with like Semi. This is not just like a self-serving thing. Like, yeah, it's helping my story, but if it doesn't help him at the same time, like, what's the point?
Right.
Like,
well, that's why
I want to work. I want to work with him to like help him get a good path for Skrull, because let's be a little bit honest, his Skrull's been sort of floundering for a little bit. He's been doing some stuff on his own to sort of build his own character, but he almost has seemed like he's been spinning his wheels. Part of that is just how many people we have. Not everyone can be featured 100% of the time, and he's done a good job of keeping himself reinvented and like out there. but it just hasn't really materialized anything yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's why I was excited to hear about the partnership. I was like, oh, sweet. Well, I think I told you that personally. I was like, oh, man, that's cool that you want to take him under your wing, because I kind of felt the same way. I was just like, I don't want to say floundering, because, that sounds like a criticism.
It's a
like,
negative. Yeah, it's like
yeah.
there's just so many people on the roster, which is why the second brand is a great thing. I would love to keep the same activity we have now with two brands. It would be great, because then it just means it's giving more people a shot. And like, when you go from 3 belts to 6 belts, all of a sudden there's a lot of potential there. Like, more people can be featured.
Right, and it's so I don't use the word floundering, but it's just like he was kind of
spinning his wheels. Like,
well, yeah, that was okay. Yeah, that's a good way to put it, because it's like
his foot was on the gas. His eyes were facing forward on the path he wanted to go down. There was just mud, and he just wasn't moving forward with the speed that he was hitting the gas with.
Right, he was doing something, but he wasn't really doing something. Like, at the same time, like, he was promoting, but it's kind of like, well, cool, you're reminding us that you're there, but like, what's happening? Like, what program's he in? What title's he going to challenge for next, and stuff like that. So that's why that's why I was excited about the partnership, because it's like, cool, he has something like concrete, and it's another case of like a vet is taking on a new guy and like, hey man, I see your potential. You're already great, but let me see if I can make you greater.
Let's take this next step up.
Yeah.
Like, together, because like, when you look at the way my Brian's being portrayed right now, is he's very much like I know I'm the best, but I'm not the best, right? Like, there's a lot of doubt in him right now. And so he's still sort of cocky and like arrogant, and like he still knows that deep down inside he is the absolute best. He just isn't right now, and he's trying to get back to that level. And so like, that's what the partnership is.
It's kind of one of those things that, like, Daniel Bryan's inner voice is the only voice that he's going to listen to, so he has to tell himself, even though he believes it and thinks it deep down, I'm the best, he has to tell himself, you're not the best, so that he'll keep being the best, like, to prove himself wrong.
Well, actually, no, it's actually somewhat like the opposite, where like, when he was the best, he had to keep telling himself that he wasn't, to keep himself on that level. Right now, like, he knows, like, deep down inside, like, when he looks back over his shoulder at 5 years in the UWF and he sees all those title reigns, all those main events, all that spotlight, and then he looks where he is now in the darkness. There is no spotlight. There is no gold. There are no accolades. He's just there, drifting along. And he's like, I know that 5 years ago Daniel Bryan, that 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 1 year ago Daniel Bryan is still in here somewhere. I just have to pull him back out. Like, that's where this is going with him, is like trying to figure out a new way to pull that back out. And he was trying to do it with Triple H, trying to, the iron sharpens iron sort of thing. Like, if I fight somebody who hates me, who wants to destroy me, that'll bring out my best. And it's not bringing out his best. He's like, all right, you pivot. What else can I do? What if I take some young gun who's got nothing but fire in his belly and an infinite amount of potential, who's trying to chase his way from the bottom to the top? What if I have him next to me so I can see how fast he's running, see the path he's going down, and mimic it, because I know I can catch it. I know I can keep up with him.
Well, the kind of from my perspective, the best shot that I have of helping somebody out right now, because Vinny's not really somebody that's going to form a stable or bring in a manager or anything like that, because it's just like, he's very, I stand alone, I'd rather hurt you than join you, so forth and so on. So the best way that I could help right now would be, well, just kind of where how long has Brandon been around, by the way? I have to ask that. I consider him as kind of newish, but I'm not sure.
He's like a little younger. Like, I would put him around like the Soup era. I think he showed up around the same time as Soup.
Okay. Okay, well then
I
he's
feel
not
like
as new as I was thinking.
he's not super new. He's like, I think he showed up before Red Bull, but like after Cran.
Okay.
Somewhere in that sort of like, because like Red Bull's like sort of still newish, not really super new, but sort of still newish.
Right. Okay, well since
Because
he's
he was in the tail end of like Warzone with like Enzo and Cass,
okay. Well,
and Brandon was before that. I
okay.
believe like around then. I don't
Well,
know. Maybe my timeline's messed up because I was sort of just lurking at that period.
maybe I don't know. But well, okay. So anyway, that makes the what I was about to say null and void then, because I don't know how long he's actually been around. But I do know that Gert is new. So if this was to play out and I won the championship at SummerSlam somehow,
Congratulations! Clap, clap, clap.
yeah, and then Gert cashes in on me, like that's the only way I can think of right now, really, that it's just kind of like, well, hey, I would be helping a new guy because
Yeah.
uh
Because if you get cashed in on, you're not gonna like hold that grudge like somebody else might.
right.
Not like I'm saying anyone else in the Fed is gonna like, but like, if Brandon got cashed in on after he won his Jericho, that might stick in your craw a little bit. Brandon also seems like the kind of person that would take it as motivation to just keep chugging along, and add that little twist to his character.
Yeah.
But you know, like if someone like Semi made it to the world title scene without partnering with me,
Yeah.
and then got cashed in on, I could see him taking it a little negatively, or like someone like Lidl's, like somebody on like the newer spectrum getting cashed in on, it might like sting a little bit more than like if I got like, it would sting if I got cashed in on for sure, because it would be, I would feel like it's my first legitimate world title in any of these feds, and it's like, oh, it ends through cash in. Okay.
Well, my thing is just kind of like it's just like, well, okay, so the winning streak ends on a cash in, something that I saw coming like months ago because he's been talking about it. I could cash in. I'm gonna cash in. I'm gonna cash in. But it would help him not only because like, well, I'm a vet and he's a new guy, but also Vinny and Jimmy have faced off before. And I think that just from a kayfabe storyline standpoint, that is beautiful because Jacobs has pretty much said very little about Vinny since that encounter, and vice versa. So, and Vinny has this is from a kayfabe standpoint, of course, just completely kayfabe. I'm not saying that I'm not talking about Dresden and Gerd. I'm talking about Vinny and Jacobs. So okay, so they've gone their separate ways. Jacobs retired Steen and he won the briefcase and he's doing his thing, and Vinny's over here won the King of the Ring tournament, defending his television championship. He's on a winning streak, so he continues that tear, continues that winning streak, maybe retains until SummerSlam, walks out double champion. Surprise, forgot about me, didn't you? And cash in, and then that would just be like, yeah, that would just be the ultimate poetic justice, because it's just kind of like, oh, hey, yeah, you forgot about me, didn't you?
Yeah.
And I just think that would, yes, I mean, it definitely would suck in a way, but it's just like, well, obviously I've thought about it, but in a lot of ways, in a big way, like I would appreciate it in a way, like things happen that way just because of that. It's just like, well, that's a beautiful story, man. It's just kind of like,
yeah,
the one that ends the winning streak, or the one that puts a dent in Vinny's armor, or rains on his parade or whatever. It's just like somebody that he wrote off a while ago. Somebody is, oh, that's another body I scarred. That's just another person I beat on the way to get here. And this is kind of like, hey, yeah, you forgot about me, didn't you? The thing is, though, the way I try to, as I said at the beginning of this, when you asked me, like, what are you thinking about the television championship? Are you thinking about defending or challenging? Like, which one are you thinking about more? And when I say I try to look at, like, the big picture, that's how I'm going to try to look at this going forward. is kind of, and I've always tried to trash talk that way. I said it as Stone Cold all the time, and it's because like I'd always say things like, well, this person might try to get involved, and in case you're thinking of jumping me tonight or stuff like that. Like I always try to think that way. I always try to kind of like cover all the bases so that it's just kind of like, even if I do get blindsided, even if I do get jumped, like okay, Stone Cold gets jumped on Raw or whatever, but then you can look back at that promo or that trash talk. It's just like, well, he kind of saw it coming a little bit, so then you kind of have something to work from in the next trash talk or the next promo, and then your character, yeah, got beat up, but you still kind of look strong because it's just kind of like, well, it didn't. Your character doesn't look like an idiot because they weren't taken off guard. Yeah, they were. So yeah, they were prepared.
Like they were ready for it. You can be ready and prepared to get jumped all you want, but you're getting jumped. It's not like a fair fight. You're getting jumped. You're getting jumped.
Right. So that's one thing that I think I'm going to try to do moving forward is like, not completely go into it like I'm not going to get cashed in on. That can't happen, because this is like Vinny, yeah, it can, So, and Brandon might do the same thing with Jericho. I'm not really sure, but yeah, that's what I'm going to try to do is not, kind of not play it up like I've forgot about the briefcase holder entirely because, well, as I just said, it's kind of foolish to do things that way, but also like it would be kind of out of character for Vinny to overlook somebody at this point because one of the consistent things he's kind of keeps bringing up is, like I said, he looks at the bigger picture, and the few people that have beaten him, he hasn't forgotten that. He wants to right that wrong and stuff like that, and it's just kind of like, well, things can change on a dime and I just adapt to it, and I pay attention more than you think and stuff like that. So that's another reason that I'm going to try to be like, yeah, I'm watching Jacobs, like, hey, I'm focused on defending this television championship and I know what's coming with Jericho. I'm preparing for that, but also in the back of my mind, out of the corner of my eye, I know Jacobs is there with that briefcase.
Well, don't worry. I'll take that briefcase off Jacobs for you. Then you won't have to worry about it no more.
Yeah, take that one, hook, line, and sinker. Then Daniel Bryan's cashing in. Oh God, 1, 2, not like this. 3.
I'm just gonna lay out this scene because it's completely fantasy. There's no way any of this is gonna happen. Like 100%.
Okay.
So say I do beat Gert on Revolution, and then Bryan comes out all arrogant, pompous, preening his own feathers, like, I beat Mr. Money in the Bank. I beat 4th best. I'm gonna beat 3rd best. I'm gonna beat 2nd best. I'm gonna beat 1st best because I am the absolute best.
Right.
Right. Then Jacobs comes out, challenges him to SummerSlam, briefcase on the line, can't do it twice, yada yada yada. Bryan beats him at SummerSlam, wins the briefcase. Hooray. Right? Main event of SummerSlam happens. Vinny wins. Jericho wins. Whatever happens. They're looking up the ramp. Nothing happens. They're looking through the crowd. Nothing happens. Graphic comes on, fades away. Nothing happens. Like, oh. Bryan didn't immediately cash in. So you get the Revolution, right? And, Bryan's got the briefcase. And he just does a normal Bryan promo. Doesn't really hype it up. Doesn't really do much with it. Right? We get to the second show. What's the world title of the second show? The international title.
Mm-hmm.
Bryan held, to my knowledge, I don't believe this is totally inaccurate. He held the UWF Global Championship, which was a world title.
Mm-hmm.
He held the World Heavyweight Championship.
Yep.
He held the UWF Championship, I believe.
I think so.
There was a 4th World Championship that I don't think Bryan ever really held.
No, because he was never on the. He was never anywhere except Raw or SmackDown.
Well, he was on Thunder, part of the cartel, but Ray was already champion.
Oh yeah, okay. I forgot about that.
And I think Bryan ended up with the briefcase, but I don't think he cashed in on the international champion. I think he cashed in somewhere else.
Yeah, I don't. Well, now you're right. I don't think he ever won the international
He
championship.
never won the international championship. The new world championship on the second show is the international championship. So on day one of that show, whether he's drafted there or not, if Bryan has that briefcase, he's showing up on that show and cashing in on the vacant title to be the inaugural champion.
Now, see, while you were laying that out, though, I thought of something entirely different. And well, I was thinking of the Villain Enterprises thing, and it's just kind of like, just completely hilarious to me because it's like, oh, the street fight. Oh, okay, you thought, oh yeah, you got one over on me, man. The roll up pin, but the tension's gone, and yeah, it's all land of milk and honey from here. And so you said that okay, pay per view goes by, doesn't cash in. Revolution goes by, doesn't cash in. So I was thinking of like kind of a theft free bird rule kind of thing. So anyway,
Ooh.
yeah, Skrull ends up Bryan is checking on Birdie, or he's on the phone with Bree or something like that, and Skrull just can't resist the temptation, and he takes the briefcase and he just runs out there and cashes it in, and then him and I could just see Skrull and Bryan getting into a shouting match where, did you cash in my briefcase? Did you cash in my Money in the Bank briefcase? I did, and then Skrull's just like, I did. This championship makes me look rather dapper, doesn't it? Do you know what you look like? Do you know what you look like without a championship or a briefcase? Not the best. An absolute numpty.
Oh man, and we I'm running with that idea. I can just imagine Team Hell No. I am the UWF International Champion, and Bryan going, I am the UWF International Champion. Them defending the world title, Freebird rules as well. Oh man, no, that's a good one too. I quite like that too, because I can see that, because Semi and I have tossed a lot of different promo ideas back and forth, and I'm gonna be writing one of those sometime this weekend. It's gonna be a fun one for sure. So look forward to stuff like that. But it's always fun to talk to people about the past, to see where we've come from, and then to get more clarity on where we're going as a Fed, as individuals. And the biggest thing that I hope people take away is talk to each other. Yeah, we do it in the Discord a lot. We have a lot of fun, but Semi was spinning his wheels, and now I'm gonna try to do what I can to help him get out of the mud and onto the path that he wants to be on.
Mm-hmm.
You obviously, as a veteran, if you're spinning your wheels, you know what you need to do to get yourself out of the mud. But you look at YOLO, someone like YOLO, and I don't mean to pick on him, but his Cassidy was awesome. I loved his Cassidy, and he ended up just spinning his wheels, and he switched characters, and it almost feels like I wish I could go back in time and give this advice, just reach out to people. Not just for advice on your own character, but reach out to people for a mini program. Ask Danny hey, can I face so and so for a couple tell a little story? It doesn't have to be a pay-per-view match, but can we do a mini storyline on the weeklies?
Mm-hmm.
Just because sometimes the best way to develop your character, you can do solo promos till the cows come home, and you can develop your character, but if you're just stuck doing solo promos and you're not in a title hunt and you're not in a feud where somebody else's words help force you to adapt, you're not gonna do much else, because if you've already come up with your character, it's hard for you to just spontaneously come up with a new caveat for that character.
Mm-hmm.
eventually you will hit your own glass ceiling, and that's where someone else comes into play, whether they're giving you advice through critiquing trash talks and say like, hey, maybe you should focus more on this style of your personality, or hey, maybe if you just sort of clean up some of these like references to the past and focus more on like this, then like that might help balance your character out.
Well,
Or
that's
if it's like working a program with someone where it's like, I'm going to fire my best shot at you, you're going to fire your best shot at me, and iron's going to sharpen iron, and we're going to come out the better for it.
Right. Well, let's see. Lidl's would reach out to me in the beginning, and before the King of the Ring tournament, Destructo reached out. He's like, hey, do you think there's something, he said, would you mind giving me some like advice on my Rollins? I was like, yeah, I could. So gave him a little bit of advice, and then we ended up facing off in the King of the Ring tournament. And I'm like, why was he asking me for advice, man? Like, he is solid. He is good. I don't think I can beat him. He's going to beat me. He wanted my advice, and I can't beat him. I should be asking him for advice.
Well, like I just want people, like last time I was talking about like reaching out for like criticisms and like help just to sort of like develop from an outside perspective, and now I'm like, now I want to try to get people to like go a little bit more on like the kayfabe side of things. Like, obviously you're gonna have to clear it with your head writers. Obviously you're gonna have to ask Danny and get permission, but be open to trying to make your own stories and involve other people. Collaboration is like the best way to improve, whether you're collaborating as a team, whether you're collaborating in a feud. Like, reach out to somebody. If you're seeing someone doing something that you like and you think that like, hey, if I work with this, it might help me find some weakness that my character has, and I can strengthen that.
Well, like perfect example of that was the contract signing that me and Foch did for our match. Me and him were bouncing ideas off of each other. He's like, hey man, he said, I think it would be a great idea if this happened, because Sweeney's character is this, just giving me thoughts on that or whatever. And we really were. We were just bouncing ideas off of each other. It's just like, man, I was like, I could see Sweeney going like all out with it, so the reason he came out with like the regal garb, and he was, did like, I was like, I think you should ham it up. So, like him coming out and doing the Queen wave and all that stuff, like folks thought of that, but like him coming out with the scepter and sitting in the throne and all that stuff, like I pitched that. So, just stuff like that's a perfect example though of what can happen.
Collaborating on like a segment.
Yeah.
In like a feud setting. And like that's another thing, is like if you're feuding with somebody, don't just go based off what like the preview says, like, oh, we're gonna get an in-ring segment with so and so and they're gonna talk about this. Like, you don't have to just do that. Pitch an idea. Be like, I pitched the triple beatdown idea to Semi and Cran, and they were both on board with it. But like, if I didn't pitch that, it wouldn't have happened, and there wouldn't have been built stakes to that match. Sometimes like Danny thinks of so many different things, and so do all the writers, but they can't think of everything. They can't cover every single base. Sometimes you might just have to step up to the plate and just be like, all right, here's my idea. We're going to do this style of segment. Miz is going to do a reality TV show segment, and then he's going to run into a fan of his opponent for the pay-per-view.
Mm-hmm.
Like, things like that. Like, if you're in a little, like, feud, collaborate with your opponent, because you'll both come out the better for it. Cran and I won promo of the month for our Triple H and Bryan feud starter because we collaborated. We both had an idea. We both bounced ideas off of each other, and it brought out the best in both of us.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I want these to be fun trips down memory lane, fun little answers and little tidbits of trivia, but I also want good takeaways from it. I think collaboration is the lesson of the day.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you wrapped it up that way, because I mean, like, while it is fun to go back and, I do have my opinions and everything like that, I just, at the same time, I don't want to come off harsh or like I'm burying somebody and stuff like it, because I don't want to do that. I just that's not how I try to be, and I don't want anybody to like fire this podcast up and be like, oh well, that's not what I was expecting. I didn't think he'd say something like that, or anything like that. I just want it to be like we're boycotting episode 3 because Dresden's a jerk.
No, I don't think you came across that way at all. If anything, I came across that way, and that's fine. I am a jerk. Check my pulse. I'm still the best. But thank you for your time, Dresden. We went an hour longer. That's right. We went an hour longer than the Cran interview. I didn't think that was possible. We went 3.5 hours.
Well, yeah, I didn't think it was possible either. I thought if anything, we'd fall like way, way, way shorter.
No, dude, I told you, man. Once I get rambling, it's hard to stop me. But you definitely did your own fair share of talking as well. So thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing a bit of a window into the past. Thank you for sharing a little bit of the thought process going into some match rating, into your thoughts of the King of the Ring and SummerSlam moving forward. A lot of your thoughts on Vinny. Really great stuff. Like, I love the character. I love seeing what you're doing with this essentially blank slate and then just making it your own.
Well, thank
you. Catching fire at the right time.
Yeah. Fire that I didn't think that I could ever catch again. But hey, look at me.
All right. Well, thank you for your time. And we will catch you on the next episode. In Dresden, I would love to have you on again in the future.
What was that last part? I'm sorry.
Oh, so I said I would love to have you on again in the future.
Oh, thank you. I'd love to be on again.
Absolutely. All right. And that is it. And bye-bye.